What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4VN. Chapter 76 Fame to the Sea, a conversation with Rayleigh. Advertise here. Vice Admiral Aizen Sōsuke, capture Rayleigh alive. The news exploded in Sengoku's office in an instant. Everyone started talking. Sengoku was also surprised and did not speak for a long time, until the voice on the other end of the phone rang in his ears. Hello. Is Marshal Sengoku listening again? Apply here to open the gates of justice and go to Impel Down. Under the urging on the other end of the phone, Sengoku seemed to be suddenly relieved. Allow the gates of justice to be opened. After giving the clearance order, Sengoku hung up the phone. For a moment, I just felt that my head was in a mess, and I even forgot where I just said. Pairs of eyes in the office were fixed on him, and no one spoke first. In the end, Kizaru crossed his legs and broke the silence. Cowwine, the young people nowadays are really amazing. With him, 357, around, the summit war will be a lot safer. The usual wretched tone obviously does not have that meaning, but it always sounds like a strange feeling. On the contrary, Akainu, who has always had some slight opinions on Aizen, recognized him this time. Well done, this kind of heinous remnant party should have been arrested long ago. As he spoke, he also cast a meaningful glance at Sengoku. As if condemning. Aokiji didn't speak, but from his usual lazy appearance, it can be seen that he is not at peace at the moment. As for other vice admirals who were present, they also expressed their opinions on this. Aizen Vice Admiral captures Pluton Rayleigh alive. That's really. The Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel said with complicated eyes. If the Ghost Spider hadn't intervened, he, as the examiner, would have been the opponent to compete with Aizen. I didn't feel anything at the time, but now that I think about it, it's a pity that I missed a chance to fight. Thinking of this, he looked at the Ghost Spider behind Akainu on the opposite side. As if sensing his gaze, the Ghost Spider curled its lips and let out a cut. Aizen can have such a record, he still can't figure out where Guanchen is. I have been shown mercy. He reached out and touched his shoulder, the wound there had healed, but he still cared about failure. Hearing such news at this time, he felt relieved a lot. In addition to them, the rest of Vice Admiral also put forward their own views on this matter. But everything is positive without exception. The battle with the Whitebeard pirates is imminent. If Aizen Vice Admiral really has this strength, it will be a blessing for the entire Marine. Indeed, if this matter can be announced, it will also greatly boost the morale of Marine. Naturally, Sengoku is well aware of what they said. But at this moment, the more question in his mind is how his disciple defeated Rayleigh. Is it because I don't know him enough? No, I have to have a good chat with him when he comes back. The meeting ended quickly, and the officers who participated in the meeting dispersed. This news was also quickly spread, and spread at an extremely fast speed from various channels. For example, at this moment Doflamingo, one of the Shichibukai, received a secret communication from Virgo. Brother Ming, just got the latest news, the Marine Vice Admiral Aizen Sōsuke you called my attention earlier has arrested Pluton Rayleigh. At this time, Brother Ming was rushing to naval headquarters on a warship. When he heard the news, the smile on his face obviously froze, his brows were wrinkled, and he said with a serious expression, this joke has no meaning at all. Virgo on the other end of the phone didn't speak, and the two just remained silent. After a while, Ming seemed to accept this reality from his attitude. Foo-fur-fur. The veins on his forehead popped up, and he let out a series of wild laughter. It's interesting, it's so interesting. This good show makes me look forward to it even more. At the same time, people all over the world who received the news had different reactions. Some unbelievers scoff at this, thinking that Marine is just a sensationalist. There are those who are amazed, and they are also curious about the name Aizen. And when this news appeared on the Whitebeard pirates, it also sparked a great discussion. Father, Daddy, Pluton Rayleigh has been captured by the Marine and is now being sent to Impel Down. Marco flapped his wings and flew in front of Whitebeard, speaking eagerly. Whitebeard frowned after hearing this. Rayleigh. How did he get caught by Marine? Did Sengoku team up with Garp? Or the Magma Kid and the others teamed up? When he was young, he had a lot of dealings with Rayleigh and others, and he was well aware of Rayleigh's strength. There are only a few people in Marine who can have such strength. And it must be a joint situation before Rayleigh can be arrested. He was thinking like this, but when he turned his head, he saw Marco's face was weird. What's wrong? Father, it's not them. No, Whitebeard, the world's strongest man rarely showed doubts. It is impossible for anyone in Marine to capture Rayleigh except them, unless Rayleigh has some kind of plan of his own and wants to go in Impel Down. This. Marco thought about it, and it seemed that there was such a possibility. However, he told his father the answer. It is a vice admiral named Aizen Sōsuke, who is said to be a disciple of Marine Marshal Sengoku. Sengoku's disciple. Whitebeard fell silent. Based on his understanding of Sengoku, although he is good at using tricks, he would not do such a thing just to earn military work for his disciples. If so, the implications of Rayleigh's arrest could be profound. But, what does it matter? Whitebeard looked in the direction of Naval Headquarters Marineford, a smile on his face. It doesn't matter who shoots, lousy is Whitebeard. In an instant, Haki, the strongest in the world, soared into the sky, and many suns cheered. Oh, at this time, Aizen had just passed through the gate of justice. In 1.8, beside him stood another protagonist in the center of the topic, Rayleigh. Even though he was a prisoner, he stood on the deck side by side with Aizen, who was Marine Vice Admiral. I really don't understand why you want to arrest Luffy. Don't tell me about celestial dragons. A man of your level won't take them seriously. Senior saw it. Aizen smiled slightly and turned his head to look at him. Rayleigh let out a long sigh. Of course I can see that. Didn't the last thing you said to him just want him to break into this Impel Down? The big brother is about to be executed. I acted for him but was arrested in front of him. With his character, he will definitely come to save him. It's just a one-sided relationship. The senior seems to know him very well. Some people only see once as enough. Chapter 77 The Shoutout Bullet, from Rayleigh's Suspicions. Advertise here. Aizen came over Impel Down once. Last time it was Crocodile, this time it's Rayleigh. When Magellan was notified, he was waiting at the entrance on the first floor of the Emperor Sea. The moment Aizen stepped off the warship, he greeted him. Aizen Vice Admiral, you haven't been here for a long time. Warm and welcoming, especially when seeing Rayleigh tied up behind Aizen. As this the Vice Captain of One Piece, Rayleigh. It's not easy to invite you here after so many years. The arrest of every big pirate means that there is more peace at sea. Magellan is naturally overjoyed at the detention of this level of pirates. It was only when he saw that Rayleigh had only a pair of shackles all over his body, he immediately became alert. CC venom overflowed from his body. Seeing him so nervous, Aizen smiled and said, "It's okay, don't worry." Despite what Aizen said, Magellan still felt unsafe. But after thinking about it, there is no problem with the person who captured Rayleigh personally accompanying him. Then let's go. Cautiously nodded towards Aizen, and then 06 saw Magellan yelling inside, "Little ones, prepare for the welcome ceremony for Rayleigh." Yes. Inside the entrance, the jailers shouted eagerly. It's just that Rayleigh's eyelids twitched suddenly for some reason. Welcome ceremony. Not a good thing to hear. That's unnecessary, you just lock me up. Whatever you want, every pirate who comes in has it, it's not a special case for you. Magellan said solemnly, and then took Rayleigh for a walk in person. The dignified deputy captain of One Piece, the right wrist of One Piece, is known as Rayleigh of Pluton. They were stripped of their clothes and disinfected with 100-degree boiling water. Finally, they put on prison uniforms and were sent to the 6th floor of hell under the leadership of Aizen and Magellan. Perhaps the lesson from last time made the guys on the 6th floor remember, but this time they didn't make any moves. Aren't you going to play this time? Listening to the sound of the elevator chain turning, someone in one of the cells asked. In the empty and silent prison, the voice fell back. I'm already tired of playing, what's the fun? It took a long while before someone replied weakly. But he was soon slapped in the face. I'm tired of playing and still don't dare to play anymore. Last time I was scared by that guy, who would dare to play now? What if we meet again? The words have been said straightforward enough, but it still caused a lot of disputes. The 6th floor eternal hell, which was silent in the past, suddenly became noisy. You must know that when Garp came here before, he never caused such a sensation. Ace, who had just arrived, looked at them strangely, and to Jinbei, who was next to him in the same cell. What are they talking about? Jinbei shook his head. The old man came in later than you, how could he know? Crocodile, in the jail next door to them, gave them a lifeless glance. Recalling in my mind what it was like when I was locked in. That man, it's like a king patrolling his territory. He was unscrupulous in this place full of legendary big pirates, but countless strong men who were feared by the outside world showed their fear in front of him. Even though he had been imprisoned for a while, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. Even if they asked, everyone kept silent about it. Soon the sound of the elevator stopped. Everyone looked nervously at the entrance, when Aizen's figure appeared. In the entire eternal hell on the 6th floor, there was a sound of inhalation. So far so good, Senior Rayleigh, set it up. Aizen's voice sounded from the entrance. Instantly attracted the attention of all prisoners. Rayleigh. Which Rayleigh? Could it be that person? Countless eyes looked there as Rayleigh walked out slowly in his underwear. It's really him. Rayleigh. Never expected to see him in this kind of place. Is it sent in by that guy himself? The whispers continued. It's just that compared to their surprise, the reaction of the prisoners locked in a cell is very different. At a time when others are cautiously afraid of attracting Aizen's attention. He strode to the railing of the cell, his voice full of provocation. Rayleigh, long time no see. Rayleigh looked for the reputation and found a familiar figure. Douglas Bullet. Known as the Devil's Descendant, he was once a member of the crew of One Piece Luogia like Rayleigh. Also a powerhouse who can rival Rayleigh. Ah, it's been a long time, Bullet. Rayleigh, who has been idle outside for many years, has long known the news of Bullet's arrest, so he is not surprised to see him here. There was even some surprise in his tone, as if seeing an old friend he hadn't seen for many years. Even if their relationship is not good. But his attitude made Bullet very upset. HMPH, did you get caught in the end, too? 410 is ridiculous. Bullet has always been brooding about Luo Jia's suicide. And Rayleigh's behavior of retiring is also regarded as a cowardly and needy behavior. At that time, a fierce quarrel erupted between the two, but in the end the two fought equally, and after 2 days and 2 nights of fighting, there was no winner. It's over. Rayleigh didn't pay attention to Bullet's ridicule, but seeing his attitude, he ignored him. It's just that his performance confirmed Rayleigh's guilty conscience in Bullet's heart. Rayleigh, you coward, he shouted and cursed loudly, the aura of Conqueror's hockey on his body was about to be released. Just at this time, Aizen suddenly appeared in front of him, squinting his eyes and smiling, Bullet, can you please take back your arrogance? Bullet's rising momentum stopped instantly, and then retracted. After letting out a cold snort, he returned to the cell. But his performance surprised Rayleigh. Is this still the monster boy he knew? How can you be so obedient? Strange eyes swept over Aizen, and Rayleigh felt more and more that he couldn't see through this young man. Sengoku's disciple. Can he really teach such a disciple? Doubt from Pluton. Chapter 78 Ace. Mr. Aizen, I have let you down. Sengoku's questioning failed. Advertise here. After putting Rayleigh in the cell, Aizen didn't leave immediately. He walked to Ace's cell and looked inside. Meet you again, Mr. Potter Cass. Ace lowered his head in shame, and whispered, I'm sorry, Mr. Aizen, for disappointing you. As soon as he said this sentence, it immediately attracted countless attention. Whitebeard's son, to be publicly executed. Are you going to die and apologize to a Marine? Needless to say, the astonishment in everyone's eyes, but the eyes that fell on Ace were more of pity. I'm afraid this silly boy will be sold and return the money. Poor, so poor, are all the younger generations in Dahai now so straightforward? Ace doesn't know what other people think, and with his head down, he can't notice the strange eyes of others. He only knew that he had really failed the kindness of the Marine Vice Admiral in front of him. Not only is it the kindness of his subordinates to let him go, but also the kindness of providing Teach news. He failed. I'm sorry for making things like this. Aizen didn't say much about Ace's apology, but after taking a deep look at him, he said, No, you've done enough. Don't blame yourself, Mr. Potter Cass. Aizen's words were beyond Ace's expectations, and he suddenly raised his head amidst his low voice. Looking out of the solid cage, the Marine Vice Admiral was tall and straight, with a gentle voice. It was the only acknowledgement he had received since his arrest. Whether it's about being a pirate, or hunting down Teach alone. Even if he failed to be arrested, he never regretted it. It's just that he was still unwilling to face the blame from his grandfather Garp. I didn't expect that at this time, it was Mr. Aizen who recognized me. There was a wry smile on the corner of Ace's mouth. But his reaction made the corners of Aizen's mouth twitch upwards. Everything is going according to his script. Ace was sent in without any accident. Isn't he doing well enough? Very good. He was successfully imprisoned in Impel Down, kicking off the prelude to changing the world. It doesn't get any better than this. Aizen is leaving first. I believe we will meet again soon. After saying this, Aizen turned his back and left. Just at the moment of turning around, the smile on the corner of his mouth was still revealed in front of the prisoners. Then he glanced around, leaving a warning look in his eyes and left. After he left, eternal hell fell into silence again. Ace still lowered his head, not knowing what he was thinking. Jinbei beside him noticed something strange, but he ignored it. Aizen left Impel Down, accompanied by Magellan. At the entrance to the first floor of the sea, Magellan hesitated several times, and finally saw that he had reached the exit. He still couldn't help asking. Aizen Vice Admiral, who are you with that fire fist Ace? He heard the conversation just now, a conversation between a Marine Vice Admiral and the blood of One Piece, in that way. It was really unexpected. Regarding his question, Aizen just said flatly, we met once, and for the sake of Vice Admiral Garp, I'm merciful. Song didn't expect him to be so disabled. Magellan nodded at that. Indeed, if not for the One Piece bloodline being confirmed. Just because of Garp's face, the vast majority of people in the Marine would not kill Fire Fist Ace. After all, within the Marine system, sophistication is unavoidable. Before they knew it, they had reached the exit. After a brief farewell, Aizen boarded the warship and returned to the headquarters. When passing through the Gate of Justice, he looked at the towering gate and said in a low voice, it's time to arrange for Luffy to enter. He picked up the phone bug and gave an order to the other side after the broadcast. After the phone was hung up, almost at the same time, the Marine stationed on the Sabayati archipelago started to act. Start work on capturing bounty criminals, to send them to Impel Down. And under some inadvertent circumstances, the news was leaked in a bar by 2 drunk sailors. Seeing that the day of public execution is getting closer, the rhythm and atmosphere of the entire Marine became tense. In the past, the Shichibukai meeting in the Holy Land Mariajoy was scheduled, but this time it was also scheduled to be held in Marineford, Naval Headquarters. With the return of Vice Admiral warships these days, more and more Shichibukai have gathered here. Except for the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral who was on the way back, and the Empress Boa Hancock who came with his warship. Only the recently appointed Whitebeard II, Edward Weeble, was absent. When Aizen just returned to the port of this department, there was a messenger standing there, and I don't know how long he had been waiting. Aizen Vice Admiral, the Marshal ordered you to go to his office immediately after returning from the flight. Quote. Pursing his lips, he tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart, standing in front of Aizen, even his body trembled slightly. It could be seen that the orderly seemed a little nervous. Okay, I see. Thank you for your hard work. Aizen smiled warmly, patted the orderly on the shoulder, and then walked straight towards the Marshal's office. Leaving the messenger dancing excitedly. Until I walked far away, I could still vaguely hear, Aizen Vice Admiral told me you have worked hard. Aizen Vice Admiral patted my shoulder. Totally like a fan. Aizen smiled slightly. Longing and admiration are really unreasonable existences. When he knocked on the door of Sengoku's office, he walked in. I saw Marshal Sengoku, Hero Garp, Chief of Staff Crane, and 3 admirals all gathered here. Not only that, but even Zephyr, who has retreated to the 2nd Honor Jiao line in Marine, is there. The moment he opened the door and stepped in, 7 people and 14 eyes cast their gazes at the same time. Aizen Vice Admiral, you really did a great job quietly. Sengoku had a serious expression on his face, and placed his hands on the table with fingers crossed. With a few other companions, there is quite a posture of provoking a teacher. And that's what he looks like. Except for him, everyone has a different expression on Zoo. Garp bowed his head in silence, as if the matter had nothing to do with him, Crane thoughtfully, staring at him up and down. Kizaru continued to drink tea and read the newspaper leisurely, and Aokiji simply put on the blindfold and leaned on the sofa to pretend to be asleep. Akainu smiled with iron trees blooming on his resolute face, and nodded towards Aizen. Zephyr even gave him a meaningful smile. Thanks a lot. Sengoku. Chapter 79 Sengoku questioning, Shichibukai conference reopened. Advertise here. Sengoku is also helpless for the few guys who are disrupting the stage around him. Covering his forehead, he sighed and said, forget it, come in first, I have a few things to ask you. Aizen closed the office door and walked in. Sengoku sorted out his thoughts and asked. The first is about the arrest of Rayleigh this time. I need to know the details. The second is the question of Edward Wabel, one of the new Shichibukai. As he spoke, his gaze flicked to Zephyr to the side. If Zephyr's ship had not been in the first half of the Grand Line before, and his current strength would also not allow it. He even wondered if the old man had disobeyed his orders and gone for revenge. During this time, Aizen has been by his side, and at the same time, Aizen still took the task of meeting Wabel. No matter how you look at it, there is something suspicious. And for his doubts, Aizen has long been prepared. The capture of Rayleigh just happened at the right time. The attack on the Celestial Dragons happened in the Sabayati archipelago earlier. I was ordered to hunt down the chief culprit of the pirate capture. Aizen said while looking at Garp on the side. Although it was Sengoku who answered the phone at the time, the news that Celestial Dragons was attacked would naturally spread quickly. So that everyone in the office knew that it was Garp's grandson who did it again. Considering that another grandson of his has just been caught and is about to be publicly executed. Sengoku is also reluctant to delve into the issue. I'm asking why you caught Rayleigh. Rayleigh offered to replace Straw Hat Luffy with himself in exchange for the other party's freedom. Surprised by this, Sengoku turned to look at Garp. Your grandson knew Rayleigh. Before Garp could speak, Akainu who was sitting on the sofa spoke first. He said in a bad tone. In order to save a Straw Hat Luffy whose bounty is only more than 100 million, Pluton Rayleigh is willing to go off and replace it himself. It seems that the relationship between these two people is also extraordinary. As soon as the voice fell, the entire office fell silent in an instant. Nothing but the sound of him smoking a cigar. After hearing this, Garp just gave him a deep look and didn't speak. At this time, he really has nothing to say. Instead, Sengoku was worried that stimulating him would affect his position in the Summit War. Okay, let's end this topic here first. Since Rayleigh is willing, then forget it. The weight of 10 One Piece vice captains is still higher than that of 10 supernovas. Having said that, his attitude is basically confirmed. Not wanting to be more accurate on Straw Hat Luffy, or Garp's grandson. Sengoku doesn't want to continue on this topic anymore. So he bypassed this question and asked, what is your strength now? Not only did he care about this question, but everyone present was also very curious. Even 5 elders made a special call to ask after the news of Rayleigh's arrest. All questions are how strong is Aizen? And the doubts about this point are why Rayleigh is willing to replace Luffy instead of saving Luffy directly. The only possibility is that he cannot be saved. I'm afraid I will disappoint you. It was Mr. Bazerolio's assistance that could seriously injure him. After hearing Aizen's words, everyone felt a little disappointed. But it's reasonable when you think about it. If Aizen suddenly explodes with a combat power comparable to Admiral's, it will make people suspect his intention to hide his strength. Just a normal vice admiral. Sengoku nodded. It would make sense if the two joined forces. Then it's time to ask another question. The Summit War is about to start now. Where is Edward Wabel who asked you to pick him up? Before Aizen could speak, Zephyr next to him said, maybe he was afraid of meeting Whitebeard and regretted it. They Age, mother and son have always been called Whitebeard too. Sengoku pretended not to hear his words. After learning that Zephyr had already made up his mind to return the shroud of horse leather, he didn't want to say anything more because of 2 verbal arguments. As for the matter of Wabel always, although there are many doubts. But now that the war is imminent, it is meaningless to talk about it. And this Wabel, if he really appeared on the battlefield, he would really be an uncontrollable bomb. I don't know when it will explode, and I don't know whether it will hurt the enemy or myself. Akainu. A pirate is a pirate. It's so strange to change the order and betray the covenant. Aokiji pulled off the blindfold. Whitebeard too, will he really help us fight Whitebeard too? Kizaru took out his nail clippers. Hee. Oh, Sengoku sighed. Forget it, let's do it first. After saying this, his eyes were fixed. 2 days later it will be the day of public execution, everyone, get ready. The voice fell, and there was a knock on the door. Enter. After receiving the marshal's response, the colonel who sent orders outside the door gave a military salute when he entered the door. Report to the marshal, the warship of Vice Admiral, the Flying Squirrel, has returned, and Empress Shichibukai Boa Hancock has arrived at the headquarters. Okay, I see. You send the order down to summon all the Shichibukai to the External Chamber Council. Yes. After the colonel stepped back, Sengoku glanced at everyone. Will you come with me? Akainu stood up abruptly, turned and left under Sengoku's gaze. I don't want to see those sea bastards, otherwise I'm afraid I can't help but attack them. Sengoku turned to look at Aokiji as if he had known this before. All of a sudden Aokiji shouted. Ha! I've been working so hard recently, I haven't slept well, I don't know if it will affect me during the battle. Sengoku's eyes continued to move, stayed on Kizaru for a few seconds, and then moved away naturally. I was ignored by the boss. That's great. The rest of Garp left without saying a word, and Crane also went back to the staff to designate a battle plan. Not to mention Zephyr. Sengoku looked at Aizen helplessly. You should come with me this time. My pleasure. Soon Sengoku brought Aizen outside the conference hall. Before entering the door, I heard Doflamingo provoking Moria in the room. Fufurfur, you really have changed a lot, Gecko Moria. I just don't know if your strength has become stronger. Doflamingo, get the hell out of here if you don't want to die. Chapter 80 The Unexpected Moria, thanks from Aizen. Advertise here. Doflamingo, get the hell out of here if you don't want to die. Moria's cold and domineering performance is completely different from the previous impressions given to others. And this rude attitude towards Brother Ming was also unexpected. Fufurfur. Brother Ming laughed and waved his finger. A sharp thin line flew out of the corner of the table and went straight to Moria. Such a sudden action made the other people suddenly interested. Want to see how Moria copes? The newly joined Blackbeard teach looked at the two of them with a hearty laugh. Ha 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 ha, didn't expect to see a good show for the first time. Although the others did not speak, their eyes were fixed on Moria. It is rumored that Moria has been in a slump since losing to Kaido in New World. Not only has he lost his crew, but even his personal strength has been greatly reduced. I've been researching some useless minions all day long, and I'm self-righteously calling them a zombie army. How will he respond to Doflamingo's temptation? When they imagined Moria's method, they found that Moria just squinted at Doflamingo, as if he didn't see his attack. Neither dodge nor resist. What does it mean? They don't think Moria is going to be caught without a fight. After all, he was once a strong man with a tough attitude, so he shouldn't be like this. Amid their doubts, Moria raised her left hand to block Brother Ming's line chopping with his bare hands. What? This result surprised Brother Ming, and the smile on his face disappeared accordingly. His eyes fixed on Moria's wrist, and he couldn't help frowning. Although the blow he just did was casual, he didn't use his full strength. But the skin on Moria's arm was pale, there was no sign of using armament hockey, and only the physical body was hard enough to follow. Huh, the physical strength is not low. Mihawk's piercing eyes whispered as he watched Moria's unmarked arm. The rest of the people were also very surprised. Especially Blackbeard, after seeing Moria's flesh, jealousy almost jumped out of his eyes. Such a strong body, if I can also have this body, then the side effect of the triple damage caused by dark fruit can be greatly reduced. Thinking this way in his heart, a gleam flashed in his eyes. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Brother Ming soon woke up from the surprise at the beginning, and looked at Shalia as if he had discovered some novel toy. Fufurfur, really underestimated you. Since the blow just now was useless, let's try this trick again. As he spoke, his palms became claws, and 5 silk threads emanated from his fingertips. 5 color strings. Moria is not used to Ming-Ji's aggressive behavior. The right hand instantly pressed on the Zanpakuto at the waist, and drew the sword out of its sheath. Just when the battle between the two was about to escalate, Sengoku and Aizen walked in from the meeting room. It's like this every time, can't you bastards be more honest? Sengoku looked at the two standing on the table and said. His appearance did not surprise anyone. Everyone here is a master, and they could sense it in advance without deliberately concealing it. It's only because he didn't show up. Now that she has come forward, she still has to give her face. Brother Ming withdrew his hand with a laugh. Moria glanced across Aizen behind Sengoku inadvertently, and also withdrew her saber. Hawkeye always felt weird watching Moria tuck the knife into her waist. This knife doesn't look like a famous knife, but it unexpectedly matches Moria's aura, which is really weird. Seems like I've seen this before. He cast his eyes on Aizen, his eyes were deep, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Aizen felt his gaze and smiled back. And Blackbeard Teach carefully monitored the reactions of the people around after Sengoku appeared. He found that the people present seemed to pay more attention to the Vice Admiral named Aizen, even more than Marshal Sengoku. Thief ha ha ha. Aizen Vice Admiral, I thought you were not simple when we met last time. I didn't expect you to be able to defeat Pluton Rayleigh. It's really amazing. On the premise of meeting once, Teach greeted him as if he was familiar with him. 0. Seeking flowers. And in the process, he also discovered something interesting. Shang seemed to be very afraid of this Aizen, and his expression changed after he showed up. Although I can't see too many things, it is enough for Teach to judge. As for Hawkeye and Doflamingo, it seems that he is also very interested in him, but this Moria. The attitude is incredible. Aizen saw that although he was greeting himself, his eyes kept wandering around. Where can not see his mind? I can't help but sigh in my heart, as expected of someone who can hide on the Whitebeard pirate ship for decades. Regardless of the character, this acting and observation are not comparable to ordinary people. 0. Captain Blackbeard gave us Marine a great gift, and Aizen, as the teacher's disciple, is very grateful for your contribution. Where is it? I am also a Shichibukai now, thief ha ha ha. I also prepared a gift for you, but I can only give it to you after the war. Thief ha ha. Then I am waiting for the gift from Aizen Vice Admiral. The two were talking about scenes. Even Sengoku couldn't stand it anymore. Okay, don't you know what Shichibukai are like? If you really want to kill them, you might as well let those celestial dragons go to the world government to give their opinions and ban them. As he spoke, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. When did Marine need to talk to the gang of pirates? This disciple is still too gentle. This is not good. And what Sengoku said didn't give the people present the face at all, just when they were about to say something. There was a sound of high-heeled footsteps outside the door. Da. The last Shichibukai Empress Boa Hancock was late. The concubine is just a little late, did you start arguing? Sure enough, no matter who it is, men are always so rude. When walking past Aizen, Hancock did not forget to look him up and down. Showing disdainful eyes. This is the friend of the celestial dragons. Huh, it's nothing special. Door. Chapter 81 Going to Impel Down, Straw Hat Crew Collective Action. Advertise here. Hancock's attitude was as expected by Aizen. After all, she hated celestial dragons so much, so she naturally sneered at Aizen, who was respected by celestial dragons. After she entered the arena, except for Wabel, whose whereabouts were unknown and who had been abandoned by Sengoku and others, all the active 7 warlords of the sea were present. The meeting was also held under the chairmanship of Field Marshal Sengoku himself. Meanwhile on the other side, on the Sabayati archipelago, the undivided Straw Hat crew dine in the tavern, Maki's ripped-off bar. The news from the marine side has been confirmed. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be a warship carrying the captured bounty criminals to Impel Down. Only boarding that warship can pass through the gate of justice. Shaki smoked a cigarette and said to Luffy and others who were sitting on the bar counter. It's just that seeing their dejected 750 appearances, I can't help but feel a little suspicious. If you are determined to save people. Luffy and others heard what one of her said, and immediately said that they must go back to save people. If you can forget about such kindness, what if you become number 1 in the world? Zoro said with firm eyes. Ms. Dolly said, you must know how to repay your kindness. Chopper's petite body stood on the ground looking up at Shaki, seriousness written all over his face. Sanji flicked the cigarette ash in his hand. The kindness this time is too great, if I don't pay it back, I will have no face to see old man Zapu again. Naturally, Captain Luffy is indispensable at this time. Because he has the most reason to do it out of all the people, whether it's Rayleigh's kindness or Ace who was about to be executed. He has a reason to go. Everyone, we're going to act together again this time. Oh, Shaki smiled as he watched them pick themselves up again. Just looking at Nami and Usopp among the few people. Although you are very motivated, I still have to say that you two had better not go. Huh, why? Although they are usually very timid, they never shrink back when it comes to such big issues. Now that everyone else is going to act together, she actually let the two of them stay. Alas, Shaki sighed and said, Impel Down is really too dangerous. If you two were going to die, it would be almost the same. Even if they can survive in front of them, it will hold them back. Speaking of Shaki's cigarette butt, he pointed to Luffy and the others. Then the direction turns and it faces Chopper and Robin again. The strength of the two of them is also very weak, but one is smaller to hide and is also a doctor, and the other has fruit ability to facilitate investigation. She didn't go on, but the meaning was obvious enough. Nami and Usopp looked at each other, hesitated to speak. Obviously they also know that their strength is not strong, and going there may really delay them. Realizing this, the two couldn't help lowering their heads sadly. Just when they were feeling sad, Luffy's firm voice came. We are partners, no matter what difficulties we will overcome together. Hearing his words, there were tears in the eyes of the two of them, and their hearts were extremely moved. He raised his head and looked at Shaki firmly. Shaki glanced at them and saw their stubbornness too. Oh, that's all, let you go. I will find a way to let you sneak into the warship, but when it comes to Impel Down, it's all up to you. Luffy smiled and nodded in agreement. But Zoro on the side looked at Shaki with some doubts. Aren't you going? Shaki was startled, then smiled wryly. I still have important things to do, I can't leave here. More important than that, uncle. Hearing this question, Shaki's face changed slightly, and he kept secret. After being silent for a long time, he pressed out the cigarette butt before quietly saying, yes, it's more important than him. Oh, let's go first. Safe travels. After watching them leave, Shaki walked out of the bar and sat down at a window seat, resting his chin with one hand and not knowing what he was thinking. After Luffy and others left the tavern, returned to the marine branch of Sabayati Archipelago. With Robin Flower Fruit's ability to easily avoid Marine's patrol. Through the conversation of the soldiers, the specific time of the warship's departure was learned. Then let Chopper run to the dormitory area by taking advantage of his size, and stole some Navy uniforms from there. In order to deceive others, Zoro also distributed his knife to Sanji and Luffy. After some disguise, several people will get on the warship. You guys wait a minute. A marine soldier stopped them, walked up to them and looked them up and down. Which team are you from? Why haven't I seen you? Ah, this, Nami said with a guilty conscience. We are new here, and it's normal for us to face each other. The new one can wear seaman first-class clothes. And the soldier pointed at Sanji and said, he's wearing a military officer's clothes, no matter how you look at it, you all think it's suspicious. It looks like it's about to be exposed. Luffy and the others faintly wanted to do something. At this moment, a voice came from a distance. Hey, you guys hurry up and get on the boat, the anchor will be weighed soon. The soldier looked around and saw a man in a flowered shirt coming over. After seeing the man's face, he immediately gave a military salute. Captain Harry. Harry replied perfunctorily, and then said to the soldier, these people were supported by the headquarters before, and this time they will go to Impel Down with the ship. Ah, something wrong. Facing the soldiers' hesitation, Harry frowned and asked forcefully. The official was crushed to death by a senior officer, and after being stared at like this, the soldier immediately lost his opinion and respectfully stepped aside. Several please. 0.4 After several people nervously followed Harry onto the warship, in a secluded corner, Harry put away his pretentious appearance. Slightly obsequiously said to them, I have completed Miss Shaki's task, what about the original list? Knowing that this was Shaki's arrangement, everyone was relieved. But they don't know what the list is, and in order to avoid exposure, they can only. After Luffy and the others knocked Harry unconscious, they lurked in the utility room of the cabin and waited quietly. Little did they know that their every move was being watched by others. In the command room of the warship, Lieutenant Colonel Highgorn held a phone bug in his hand and said respectfully, the target is already on board and is heading for Impel Down. Receive. Chapter 82 Step into the trap and meet the Red Nose again. Advertise here. The warship from the Sabayati Archipelago also passed through the Gate of Justice after hours of sailing. Coming soon to Impel Down. When Luffy and the others stepped onto the deck and got off the ship with the team escorting the criminals. Highgorn, who had been watching them all the time, stood on the height of the warship and shouted at them. Hey! You guys! The few people were already cautious, but when they were stopped suddenly, they thought they had revealed some flaws. But when Luffy turned his head to look over there, he asked naturally, Uncle, what's the matter? Uncle, this claim raised the hearts of the rest of the people. Everyone looked at Luffy in disbelief. This idiot captain, this is Marine. It's over, it's for sure. Not only them, but even Highgorn's face was full of black lines. But in order to complete the task, he pretended to be serious and shouted, Idiot, call me sir here. Is that so? Ha ha ha. D06. It's all right. Zoro and the others looked surprised, but they also breathed a sigh of relief and didn't think much about it. The most important thing now is how to get in. Highgorn came down speechless, and said towards the entrance of Impel Down, there are a lot of prisoners this time, you help the jailer brothers to send these criminals in. What is a surprise? This is called surprise. They were still thinking about whether to enter directly, or find some way to sneak in, and this opportunity came. A2. Why does this always feel weird? Was it a little too smooth? Just when they were thinking this way, Highgorn pulled Luffy off the rudder board and came to the jailers. Lieutenant Colonel Highgorn, I have troubled you again. Deputy Director Hannibal waited there, and greeted Highgorn kindly when he saw him. Then he glanced at the people who followed Luffy off the boat and nodded, are they the ones? Then let's go and bring these criminals in together. There is a problem, there is definitely a problem. Everyone was suddenly alert. It doesn't make sense to just need a few people, whether it is the number or the number of candidates, you have just selected the crew on your side, right? Zoro's hand was already pressed on the word, Hidao, on his waist, and his eyes kept scanning around. Thinking about how to deal with these people as quickly as possible. Not only him, but others as well. It was only when they saw the deputy director named Hannibal, shoulder to shoulder with Highgorn. Hannibal still whispered in Highgorn's ear, did you get that woman's list back? Highgorn glanced at Luffy and the others. A look that is sure to win. I will go to her after returning to the voyage. If she doesn't give it, you can keep these few as pirates and lock them up. Hannibal showed a clear expression when he heard the words, and looked at Luffy and others with deep meaning. But Luffy, who heard this, hadn't understood yet. The others have all reflected it, and this is again Shaki's credit. It seems that she threatened these marine officials and jailers with that list. No wonder it went so smoothly. Just when they were relieved a little, they followed the jailer into the interior of Impel Down. Shaki, who was far away on the island of Sabayati, glanced at the wall clock on the wall and murmured, "It's time for Impel Down. I don't know how they will get in. I hope you won't be too reckless. If you are also arrested, you will be in trouble." She still doesn't know that Luffy and others whom she hopes for have stepped into the trap step by step, and she herself is also a part of this trap. Soon Luffy and others came to the locker room under the arrangement of Hannibal. When the prisoners changed into prison uniforms, they also changed into the jailer's clothes. You don't have much time, so go find someone you want to meet with the previous bounty number. Those detained in the first floor of Crimson Hell are all below 10 million Baileys. The second level of Wild Beast Hell is less than 50 million. The third floor is more than 50 million in Starvation Hell. The fourth floor of Blazing Hell is about 100 million. The fifth floor, Freezing Hell, is where criminals with a bounty of at least over 100 million yuan are imprisoned. Quote. Hannibal also said to himself, "I really don't understand, it takes so much effort to see relatives, it's the first time I've been a jailer for so many years." After finishing speaking, I ignored them and just said, "You better hurry up, if you stay and go to jail, don't blame me for not reminding you." Then he left without looking back. After he left, everyone sorted out their thoughts and figured out the key points. Frankie put on an extremely tight jailer uniform and said, "These Marines must have something in Shaki's hands, otherwise they wouldn't be so obedient. Marine corruption is not a day or two." Nami's complexion was not good, it seemed that Marine's behavior made her think of something bad. But Sanji didn't care about it. "We also have to thank these guys for being corrupt, otherwise it would be really difficult for us to get in." Why? You have all seen the guards at the entrance just now. It is not an exaggeration to say that the guards are heavily guarded. If there is no internal problem, it would be too difficult for 337 to break in. After a few simple discussions, everyone immediately started to act. Ace's previous bounty was 550 million. According to what Hannibal said before, it must be on the fifth floor of Impel Down. And Rayleigh, as the vice captain of One Piece, must be kept at the bottom. They didn't know the existence of the sixth floor, and they naively thought that they could find Ace and Rayleigh as long as they went down to the fifth floor. After coming out of the locker room, the action began. After they left, Hannibal went back and forth, and took out the phone bug from his arms. The target moved smoothly, everything is according to plan. On the other end of the phone. Got it. After hanging up the phone, Hannibal's eyes showed a little trance, and he fell to the ground. But soon got up and patted his head. "Damn it, why would you have such a dream? How could the boss let pirates in to visit relatives? If you really do this, wouldn't it be hopeless for you to become a regular in this life? Ha ha ha. Impossible, absolutely impossible." On the other side, Luffy and the others did not expect to encounter a familiar figure shortly after descending to the Crimson Hell on the first floor. Ah, Red Nose. Chapter 83. What? That bastard Shanks has a daughter. Advertise here. Ah, Red Nose. Everyone looked in the direction of Luffy's finger, and they saw a guy with a red nose being chased by the jailer. Huh, Nami couldn't help but whispered, "Buggy." "Who is he?" asked Frankie, who joined later. "The pirate who fought in East Blue. Luffy was almost killed by him." A cold light flashed in Zoro's eyes, and he pulled out the saber from his waist while running. And his words surprised everyone. "Is that guy so strong?" "It's not that strong, but his ability is still quite troublesome. And the red-nosed Buggy in their mouths is currently being chased by the jailer and trying to escape." Before he knew it, countless bloodstains had been drawn on his body by the branches of the sword tree, and he was about to be chased by the jailer, when he vaguely heard that extremely piercing, "Red Nose." "Who's the Red Nose, bastard? Be careful, I'll kill you." Huh. Buggy looked in the direction of the sound and saw a few guys in jailer clothes. But why do these people look familiar? Especially the leading ones. On closer inspection, it turned out to be a Straw Hat Kid. "Straw Hat, have you been arrested too? Ha 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 ha." Buggy was so happy to see these guys here, and ran and laughed regardless of the pursuers behind him. It's just that he seems to have overlooked something. The jailer chasing after him yelled at Luffy and the others, "Brother in front, help me catch him." Only then did Buggy realize that Luffy and the others were wearing jailer clothes. The fire of jealousy burned in his heart. Everyone is a pirate, why should you be in charge when you are in prison? Straw Hat, you. Just as he was about to open his mouth, the Straw Hat crew, who had been prepared for a long time, rushed forward. Sanji, who was good at kicking skills, even stepped on Buggy's face, preventing him from saying anything. The jailer chasing over from the other side was also relieved to see the subdued Buggy when he came closer. "Phew, thank you very much. This guy is really good at running," and finally he was caught. Quote. "By the way, you look very unfamiliar, are you new here? I just heard this guy say Straw Hat Kid, what does it mean?" The jailers who stayed in Impel Down all year round didn't know Luffy and the others. He just looked at Buggy strangely, with doubts on his face. Hearing what he said, Zoro first exchanged glances with Sanji, who was stepping on Buggy, and then went around behind the jailer tacitly. Just when the jailer knelt down to arrest Buggy, he was struck by a hand knife and passed out. At this time Sanji also let go of the struggling Buggy. Red nose, long time no see. Ah, bastard, I'm going to kill you. If you have the ability, try it. Seeing that Buggy was about to quarrel with Sanji in anger, Luffy walked up to him with a serious expression. Seeing him like this, Buggy couldn't help feeling a little nervous. Now he is still being handcuffed by Seastone. If he is beaten again, he really has no power to fight back. Hey, what are you doing? Just when he was worried, Luffy said seriously, hey, Buggy. I'll go to the lower level first, do you know the way? Buggy was taken aback for a moment after hearing this, but soon realized that the Straw Hat Boy is asking for something. The whole person immediately became proud. Of course my uncle knows, but why should I tell you? He folded his hands on his chest and spoke proudly. Luffy ignored his attitude, and just said sincerely, Ace and Uncle Rayleigh have been arrested, I want to save them. Uncle Rayleigh. Buggy's mind instantly thought of the vice captain when he was still a trainee crew member. Then he shook his head affirmatively. Really? What the hell was I thinking? How could someone as strong as the first officer be caught by Marine? It must be the same name. He thought so, and the next moment he heard Luffy continue. Oh, that's right. Uncle Rayleigh also mentioned you to me, saying that you and Shanks were both pirate kings back then. At first Buggy didn't take it seriously, but when Luffy said Shanks, immediately covered his mouth nervously, pressed his index finger to his mouth and let out a shish. Carefully looked around to see if anyone else would hear. After confirming that no one was there, he whispered to Luffy, are you kidding? Do you know how strong that guy is? How could he be caught by Marine? Zoro walked up to him and said, that's right, that guy named Aizen teamed up with the Shichibukai bear and wounded Rayleigh in a sneak attack. Oh, I got it. Buggy touched his chin, nodded and said. But soon I realized another question. Aizen. Are you talking about Aizen who wears black-rimmed glasses, always smiles, and looks very hypocritical? Chopper, Robin and others are all from the Grand Line. They didn't know Buggy and didn't chime in. But the rest were surprised by it. Didn't you get caught in East Blue Rog? You know that guy too. Several people from East Blue asked him strangely. Unexpectedly, this question didn't matter. Buggy was like a powder keg being ignited, and said in an atmosphere, of course I know him, he was the one who sent me to Impel Down. There is also the woman named Yuta Marine next to him. She doesn't know what kind of trouble she is. You are noble lords asking me to trouble you. As he said that, Buggy's face was pulled down, as if he was about to cry bitterly. But Luffy laughed. Ha ha, when he heard Yuta's name. Oh, so you know Yuta too. Ha ha ha, you also know Fate. Buggy thought that Luffy had also met Yuta, and wondered if he had taught Yuta a lesson. If this is the case, it can be regarded as an excuse for myself. Unexpectedly, Luffy nodded, and said very naturally, of course I know La, we have known each other since childhood, she is Shanks' daughter. Oh I got it. Buggy nodded first, then his eyes almost popped out. What? She's Shanks' daughter. Shanks that bastard has a daughter. Chapter 84 Is there a ghost in Impel Down? False appearance. Advertise here. Knowing Yuta's identity, Buggy's face became a little ugly. If you observe carefully, you can find some awkward weirdness. At the beginning, he often said bad things about Shanks in front of Yuta, no wonder he made trouble for himself at that time. Speaking ill of her father in front of a daughter's face, it's only natural to get troubled. Hell, when Buggy thinks of that nasty guy Shanks, he thinks of the treasure map that was lost because of him. Also because he ate devil fruit, he couldn't swim. I don't know how many treasure hunting opportunities he missed due to this defect. It's actually the daughter of that bastard Shanks, no wonder it's so hateful, all the haters are gathered together. As he spoke, he looked at Luffy, and shouted in extreme displeasure, you too. After a lot of venting, Buggy began to think about it. Then, under Luffy's staring eyes, he said, it's not impossible to take you to the entrance of the next floor, but let's talk first. I will only take you to the entrance of the next floor, I don't care about the rest, and if you succeed, you must take me with you when you leave. His abacus 523 hit very loudly. It just so happened that Luffy was not a fussy person, so he immediately agreed. Okay, I'm counting on you, Buggy. There was sincere trust in his eyes. Buggy, who was watching, felt a little embarrassed. He turned his head and didn't dare to look at him. He scratched his face with a finger, and said falteringly. Oh, I don't want to help you, I just want to use it to escape from here. For his sophistry behavior, everyone also saw it at a glance. It's just not exposed. Even Nami said happily. It seems that you are not so bad. It made Buggy feel bad for a while. After that, several people took off the clothes on the jailer and put them on for Buggy. Robin also took out a bunch of keys from his waist at the right time and threw them into Buggy's arms. Try to see if there are any keys here that can open your shackles. Huh? Chopper asked curiously. Robin-chan, where did you get this? I saw it in the locker room and took it with me. Soga, that's amazing. I didn't even notice. Chopper AGDC looked at Robin adoringly. It's really opened. Buggy looked at the seastone shackles that fell on the ground, and split up on the spot excitedly. Then after changing the prison uniform to the jailer, he did not forget to put the shackles on him as well. Hey, no one can bully Ben and there will be a good end. After doing all this, Buggy led everyone towards the entrance of the second floor. While running, I still didn't forget to say to Luffy and the others, in Impel Down, apart from those jailers and jailer beasts, you have to be extra careful. Sanji asked aloud, what? I saw that Buggy's face was serious and looked particularly ugly. Ghost. WTF. When several people heard these words, their first reaction was to look at Brook on the side. Brook smiled a little embarrassedly. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Well, I'm just a skeleton, not something scary like a ghost. Usopp strongly objected to this, and kept waving his hands and said. No, you gave me a big jump back then. Yo-ho-ho-ho, that's exactly what you said. The conversation between the two caused laughter from others, but they didn't take Buggy's words to heart. What the hell, it must be some kind of fruit ability. They have seen skeletons and zombies. I also saw a ghost on Moria Island, the girl named Corona. Look at them all looking out of shape. Buggy knew that they didn't take his words to heart, and his expression became even uglier. Shut up, you bastards, listen to me. His scolding still had some effect, although everyone still didn't believe it. But at least it was quiet. Seeing this, Buggy began to speak slowly. When I first came here, I didn't believe it just like you, until later. Then what? In just one sentence, Luffy seemed to be attracted by the story pursuing questions. Others are not as nervous as him, so they just listen to it as a story. But in Buggy's in-depth narration, they realized the difference. Until I saw it, a huge monster with a pale bony visor on the head and a hollow chest. Anyone who is stared at by him will be swallowed whole. Pale bone visor, hollow chest. This. Two figures instantly appeared in the minds of Luffy and others. One is Enel and the other is Moria. And the common connection behind them is that man. It was the first man who made them feel that kind of frustration since they went to sea. Marine Vice Admiral, Aizen Sōsuke. The originally slightly active atmosphere instantly quieted down. Only Buggy didn't realize it, and kept talking. That thing is very strong. I heard from the old guys who have been here for a long time that it was only developed in recent years, and they always appear in unexpected places. Moreover, there is no distinction between the enemy, not only the prisoners, but even the prison rate will be attacked by him. Are there many such things? Robin pressed with a frown. Buggy took a look at her, someone she didn't know, did she join later? Thinking this way in his heart, he still answered Robin's question with his mouth. I don't know the lower floors, but I've only seen it twice on the first floor. Once there was only one that looked like a centipede, and once there were two different ones. At this moment, he seemed to realize that everyone was serious, and thought they were worried. So he said half comfortably, don't worry. Our luck will not be that bad. I have only seen it twice in a long time. I don't know if it was his heaven-defying luck. This is just finished. When he confidently turned into the next intersection, he was about to reach the entrance of the second floor. A huge body suddenly emerged from the void. A pale bony visor on the head and a circular hollow in the chest. Roar. There was a low growl. The huge head is almost face to face with Buggy, who was leading the way at the front of the team. Buggy, who was originally relaxed, was instantly frightened and split into dozens of pieces, and a mouth that had gone somewhere suddenly let out a scream. Ghost. Chapter 85 Top Progression. Sengoku Mobilization Moment. Advertise here. Buggy is taken aback by the sudden appearance of the monster. Also surprised were Luffy et al. If it was a strange creature with other appearances, maybe Luffy would have bright eyes and communicate with each other with great interest. It might even be invited on board as a companion, as Brook did back then. But the one in front of him is obviously out of range. Monster. Go away. Rubber bazooka. Luffy jumped into the air, punched out, and hit the hollow head. With a full-strength blow, Shu's mask was shattered directly. Shu's figure turned into fly ash after being twisted in pain. So weak. Falling to the ground, Luffy looked at the dissipated Shu and couldn't help complaining. Zoro, who had just pulled out his sword, felt bored and took it back again. Looking at Buggy, he said, is this the scary monster you're talking about? But Buggy was shocked at the moment, staying there for a long time without speaking, just looking at the place where Shu disappeared. The instant the mask was shattered by Luffy, he saw the face underneath. His appearance was seen by everyone, and they couldn't help but feel puzzled. What's wrong with you? Buggy pointed to the direction where Shu disappeared with trembling fingers. Just now, I recognized that face just now. It was the guy in the next cell when I first came in. What? Everyone exclaimed. From Buggy's words, it is not difficult to judge that the appearance of these monsters has a great relationship with the prisoners here. Two possibilities came to mind. One is that these monsters are the prisoners here, and they still retain their appearance when they were alive. One is that this monster itself is an individual, and later robbed other people's faces. And these two possibilities, everyone is more inclined to the former. Reminisce that the rewards for prisoners in this layer are generally not high. If there are still a few layers below, I'm afraid the strength will not be so weak. After making mental preparations, several people quickly rushed to the entrance of the second floor. Buggy stood there and looked at them. I have done what I promised you, and you must take me with you when you leave. Otherwise I'll kill you. The meaningless threat made Sanji frown. It's true to say that, but in order to prevent you from being exposed here in advance, you should come with us. As he spoke, he kicked Buggy and kicked him down. Then he turned to Luffy and others and said, let's go too. Everyone filed in and went to the second floor one by one. When the last Nami was about to go down, he saw that Buggy's feet were still there on the ground, and showed a smirk. He made another kick and kicked it down. At this time, Buggy's scream came a step later. Ah! You dishonest bastards. And while they were going further down Impel Down, another ship sailed past the Gate of Justice. Its owner is also one of the new 7 Warlords of the Sea, Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach. His round body stood on the bow of the ship, looking at the direction of Impel Down from afar. Thieves, ha ha ha. Soon, we will have more powerful crew members. When the time comes, the world will be ours. He has already begun to think about the scene after the success of the plan, and he can't help but look forward to which big pirates will join him. The kind of legendary pirates who can make many famous people spread far and wide, let them choose. This sense of control intoxicated him who had pretended to be his son for so many years. He couldn't wait just thinking about it. Lafitte, how long will it be? Teach turned to look at Lafitte on the mast. Lafitte said with a smile. At the current speed, we will be there in another hour. Oh, that's right, thief, ha ha ha. This ship is really good, Lafitte. Not only is it big enough and gorgeous, but it's also fast. Teach is very satisfied with the boat Lafitte found. Hearing his praise, Lafitte smiled even more, and a playfulness flashed in his eyes. Ah, it's very good of you to like it, Captain. Way ha 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 ha. Badgers, who was at the helm, let out a series of laughter. It would be even better if you can find the desired fruit ability in it. How greedy you are, Badgers. Thief, ha ha ha. That's the nature of a pirate. At this time, there is less than a day before Marine's public execution. Naval headquarters has also entered a state of preparation for war. Both the port and the fortress in front of the base are heavily guarded. Marines scattered all over the world have also stopped their work. 0. Seeking flowers. In addition to the necessary guarding and monitoring, countless elites gathered. As the Marshal, Sengoku also carried out the final mobilization. This battle will be the starting point to end the era of riots, and it will also be an important moment for our Marine to practice justice. In front of the people of the whole world, punish the curse of the evil blood. The impassioned speech made all the war kings excited. Keep chanting. Justice. It's just that the middle and senior generals showed a lack of interest, and they only shouted a few words symbolically. It can also be seen from their faces that they are obviously different from ordinary soldiers. Among these people, Yuta, who has not returned to Sky Island through secret missions, is also included. At this moment, she was standing behind Aizen, looking down with complicated emotions. What's wrong? Aizen didn't look back, but the soft voice still reached Yuta's ears. Yuta looked at him, and said with some dejection, these soldiers are righteous, and they are all good. It's just that I don't know how many of them will survive after this battle. Her voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for the surrounding senior officers to hear. There was a bit of exclamation on everyone's face. It's just that their eyes are more determined than Yuta's. Dying on the road of fighting against evil for justice is a worthy death. If it is the destiny of soldiers to die in battle, then it is their destiny to die for steadfast justice. Aizen's voice sounded, but there was a bit of sadness in the plain narration. The surrounding generals couldn't help but be in awe when they heard it. Yes, the moment they joined Marine, weren't they all ready to die? Aizen's remarks resonated greatly. At the same time, some colleagues who had criticized him showed their approval. Sengoku looked at him with gratified eyes. Akainu's face was stern, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Flying Squirrel, Ghost Spider and other vice admirals also showed expressions of approval. People such as Hina, Tashigi, etc. who were already adored, not to mention. However, under the eyes of countless people watching him, only Yuta, standing in the shadow behind him, knew. He meant more than this mountain. Chapter 86 Manos Grande Jillian, Countdown to the Top. Advertise here. After the mobilization ended, the crowd dispersed. Aizen asked Yuta softly, how is Sky Island going now? During this period of time, Yuta has been staying on Sky Island, mainly for two things. One is to have Enel assist her in transforming Sky Island, after all, it will become their base in the future. The second is to educate the people of Sky Island and let them accept the upcoming changes. For the second point, Aizen does not intend to intervene. It would be great if Yuta can do well. If not, then he naturally has other ways to let the people of Sky Island accept the rule of a new god. With Enel's assistance, the transformation of the Void Knight Palace has almost been completed, and the place reserved for Impel Down has also been prepared. Yuta only talked about the renovation of the Night Palace, but kept silent about the reactions of the residents of Sky Island. Thinking about it, it was not going well with the 603 benefits. Aizen glanced at her before, smiled at the corner of his mouth and didn't say anything. The night passed quickly. Today is the day when Fire Fist Ace, the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' second team, will be publicly executed. Just when the whole world was looking forward to it, Luffy, who went to Impel Down to rescue them, had just reached the 4th floor. They didn't know that Ace had been escorted to Marineford in advance, and they already felt the pressure. When they were here, they encountered a lot of ghosts. Although the strength is not strong, but the number is odd. Ah, what do these jailers do? There are so many monsters here, they didn't realize it. Buggy held the throwing knife he didn't know where to get, and after solving the void in front of him, he couldn't help complaining. Stop talking nonsense, hurry down, time is running out. It was Sanji again, and he kicked Buggy off the ground. But when they reached the 5th floor, an extremely terrifying scene appeared before their eyes. A black monster with a height of tens of meters almost reached the roof of this floor. It also has a bone mask with a pointed nose on its face. Luffy's eyes popped out completely, his jaw dropped to the ground and he shouted, Usopp. As soon as he finished speaking, Usopp gave him a brainstorm behind him. Idiot, here I am. Just finished speaking, Usopp looked at Manos Grande Jillian not far away, the familiar hollow in his chest. The body couldn't help trembling and said, let's slip away before it finds out, this thing is not easy to mess with at first glance. Not far behind, Chopper and Nami hugged each other in fright. On the contrary, Luffy and Zoro are very motivated and want to try it. At this moment, a bald head protruded from the corner of a cell not far away. Straw Hat Boy, don't shoot Manos Grande. His strength is terrible. Everyone turned their heads to look, and found that it was another acquaintance. Dazzy Bonus, Mr. Point 1, Dice Fruit ability user of Crocodile's Baroque Workshop. Seeing him here, Robin is the most surprised. Strictly speaking, when she was under Lao Shaw's command, she was still the other party's leader. Nico Robin, we meet again. Daz frowned when he saw Robin join Luffy in the Straw Hat. In his view, Luffy and others destroyed Crocodile's plan and were enemies. But now she has joined the ranks of the enemy, which disgusts a loyal person like him. Yes, see you again. Robin looked at him calmly. After a while, Daz said, seeing that you are going to escape in this outfit. We are here to save people, do you know where Ace is being held? Luffy got into the cell, leaned up to him and asked. Hearing his words, Daz said, Ace. Is that the guy with a bounty of 550 million? How could a man like him be locked up here? They were all locked up in the 6th floor of Eternal Hell. As he spoke, he looked at Robin. The boss is there too. Of course everyone knew who he was referring to as the boss, but they were not interested in dealing with Crocodile now. I am even less interested in exploring why there is an extra 6th floor in the rumored Impel Down that only has 5 floors. Time is running out, they must rescue Ace as soon as possible. And when Daz understood their purpose, he was silent for a moment. I can help you, but the premise is that if you can rescue Fire Fist Ace, you must agree to rescue me together with the boss. You're dreaming, people like Crocodile should be locked up here forever. Deeply aware of the suffering of the people of Alabasta, and Vivi's pain, they certainly don't want to. After getting their rejection, Daz didn't know what to say. Just stared at them silently. But at this time, a rough and feminine voice came in. Luffy Sauce, remember me. Everyone looked back and saw a familiar figure again. Exaggerated lipstick and eyeshadow, long false eyelashes. Mr. 2. Daz wondered why the other party was here. Logically speaking, his bounty should be on the upper floors. Luffy and the others were also very happy when they saw that it was Xiao Feng. Long time no see, Xiao Feng, how are you? Luffy asked happily. Xiao Feng was also very enthusiastic. Of course, I found my idol here, the king of Shemale, Ivan Cove. I have a party with my compatriots every day, and I am super happy. Yeah, that would be great, ha 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 ha. When Luffy heard him say yes, she was also happy, and laughed heartlessly. But others heard the difference. #party. Sanji looked around. There was ice and snow everywhere, the weather environment was extremely bad, and supplies were scarce. How could anyone hold a party under these conditions? Feeling their puzzled eyes, Xiao Feng said proudly, Master Ivankov has a special channel, you go with me first, now is not the time to talk. He looked up at Manos Grande Jillian not far away. With Manos Grande Jillian here, it's very dangerous here. If I didn't see you in the surveillance, I wouldn't dare to get so close to that thing in 5.3, let's go. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay, but when they thought that Xiao Feng risked his life as a bait to lure Marine away and save them. Luffy and others subconsciously chose to trust. Seeing that they were going to leave, Daz chose to quicken his pace and followed after thinking for a while. You should have seen the voids of different shapes on the upper floors, right? Those are very weak, but Manos Grande is different. They are formed by hundreds of ordinary voids devouring each other. Not only is it huge, but it also has a strong destructive ability. A move called Sero, very powerful. Everyone listened attentively, and would ask a few questions from time to time. It's just that they who followed Feng didn't notice the strange upward smile on the corner of his mouth. Everything is under Master Aizen's control. Chapter 87 Ace's identity exposed. The most evil blood in the world. Advertise here. Under the attention of the world, Naval Headquarters Marineford also ushered in a crucial moment in the plan. The picture here was also broadcast live through the video phone bug, in the eyes of countless people in the entire sea. Marine Marshal Sengoku, standing on the execution platform at this time. Accompanied by Marine Hero Garp. Below the execution platform, the three most powerful Marines, Admiral, Kizaru, Inu, and Aokiji, flourished. They sat on chairs and looked down. That kind of courage from the strong makes countless people who stand in front of the image feel the pressure of suffocation. And on the fortress not far away, the 7 warlords of the sea recruited by the world government. Below that is Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Flying squirrels, ghost spiders, Huo Shaoshan, including Aizen are among them. Then there is the giant Vice Admiral army, many generals, and 100,000 elite marines. The majestic scene exudes a chill atmosphere. A strong sense of oppression hits the face through the live broadcast. Straight to the heart of the audience. I don't know how many people are holding their breath at this moment, suppressing the excitement in their hearts. Many civilians who admired Marines saw their admiration objects in 06 on the screen, and they were so excited that they couldn't speak. Look, that's Kizaru Admiral, I heard his speed is as fast as light. What's the use of fast? I think Akainu Admiral is more powerful, magma, it only takes a little bit to melt you. Shut up, the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, is the most powerful. But he's a pirate. When the live broadcast turned to Aizen, countless boys and girls from all over the world cheered for it. Brown short hair, serious eyes behind black-rimmed glasses. There is always that gentle smile on the corner of the mouth. Ah, it's Aizen-sama, he's so handsome. Is this Aizen Vice Admiral? It looks so powerful and gentle. The princess of a country that joined the world government looked at Aizen in the video and said with a blushing face. Although there are not many pictures of Aizen, and the time is short. Far less important than Marshal and Admiral. But almost most of the live broadcast crowd, Aizen as Vice Admiral was the loudest. Even surpassed the 3 admirals for a time. The live broadcast is still going on, when the images in the video phone are concentrated on the torture platform. Huaquan Ace, who was about to be executed this time, walked up to the execution platform step by step under the escort of 2 executioners. Sengoku glanced at him, waiting for Ace to be pushed down to his knees. He took a deep breath, and asked Ace under the attention of the world. Whitebeard Pirates 2nd Division Captain, Potter Cassidy Ace, speak out. Say the man's name, your real father. The sudden problem left many people confused. Father, why are you talking about this at a time like this? Countless people who don't know the inside story feel baffled. Could it be that his biological father has some extraordinary identity? In the face of Sengoku's inquiry, Ace replied decisively, my father is Whitebeard. No, your biological father is someone else. Seeing Ace's denial, Sengoku angrily wanted him to speak out. No, before he finished speaking, Ace firmly denied, my father has only one from beginning to end, and that is Whitebeard. Sengoku took a deep look at him, knowing that it was impossible for him to admit it. The many Marine fighters present who didn't know the truth, as well as the civilians from all over the world who were waiting before the live broadcast, were not interested in watching this boring chatter. He held the microphone, both as if he was talking to Ace, and as if he was telling the whole world. At the beginning, on a small island in South Blue, we thought that the blood of that man might have been left behind. According to CP's clues and guesses, all the children who had children, and the children who were about to be born, were investigated. In the end there was nothing. But your mother, Potter Cassidy Rouge, deceived us with a will beyond ordinary comprehension. Do not. As soon as the voice fell, Sengoku denied what he had just said. Going one step further under the watchful eyes of countless people, it deceives the eyes of the whole world. What? Surprised by it? What kind of identity is this Ace that can make Martial Marines say such words? Sengoku's voice continued. She hid you in her belly with her life for 20 months, and died of exhaustion on the spot after giving birth to you. 1 year and 3 months after her father's death, a child who inherited the most evil blood in the world was born. There's no way you don't know. Your father is the One Piece Gordy. Luo Jia. For a moment, the world seemed to be paused. The first time they heard the news, people's brains hadn't had time to react. This situation lasted for nearly half a minute. Hey, what are you kidding? Fake. All 457 subconsciously do not believe. But when reason overwhelmed the inner shock and fear. The hatred for pirates and the fear of One Piece have caused countless curses from all over the world. That man, that devil actually has blood left in this world. Kill him quickly. It's actually that man's child. Hawkeye turned his head sideways, looking above the execution platform. Along with him are Moria, Brother Ming and others, even Smoker in Marine. Back then, they all witnessed the execution of One Piece King Luo Jia. Fufurfur, is the son of the One Piece King actually a member of Whitebeard's crew? He is also the son of the One Piece King and the son of the man who claims to be the strongest man in the world. What a terrible relationship. After a brief surprise, Brother Ming showed a wanton smile on his face. The Whitebeard pirates and the Luo Jia pirates had many fierce conflicts back then. Under such a premise, would Whitebeard come to rescue him? Given the importance that man attaches to his family, the probability is that he will. Really looking forward to it. Is a brutal fight about to start. Chapter 88 Liberation in front of the world. Hado 90 Black Coffin vs. Oz. Advertise here. Just when everyone was shocked by Ace's identity, an orderly hurried up to the execution rack and moved to Sengoku's side. The Whitebeard pirates suddenly disappeared from the surveillance range an hour ago, and their whereabouts are still unknown. Sengoku knew it was not good when he heard it. He turned his head and shouted to the marine fighters below, "Everyone, get ready to fight." As his voice fell at the same time, the sea in Marineford port gradually boiled. Wow! Huge water splashes soared into the sky and fell like rain over Marineford. As the water curtain fell, a huge ship with a whale prow was revealed. After it, smaller water splashes sprung up like mushrooms after rain. Not long after, more than 40 ships of all sizes appeared together. The scene is very spectacular. And on the leading whale ship, a tall figure stood there. Beneath the crooked white beard is an extremely confident smile. Google Lala, Ace. My dear son, Daddy is not late, is he? The world's strongest man, Whitebeard Edward Newgate appears. Behind him, there is a fleet of 43 pirate ships. Each of them is a familiar figure in the New World. Marco, Joes, Bista. There are smiles on their faces, as if they are here to pick up their brothers and go home. Ace, we're here to pick you up. Ace on the execution platform looked at these familiar faces. Can't help but burst into tears. Everyone, I'm causing you trouble. Seeing that his son was fine, Whitebeard laughed. Stupid son, wait for daddy there. Sengoku saw that Whitebeard regarded himself and others as nothing, and couldn't help shouting, Whitebeard, don't be so arrogant, this is naval headquarters. Gu la la la. Whitebeard let out a long laugh after hearing this, and opened his arms in front of the whole world, conceited. Lousy is Whitebeard. When he said these words, everyone was captured by the aura he exuded. I don't know how many people whispered in the live broadcast. Is this the strongest in the world? Before the words fell, the vibration force of Whitebeard's hands became stronger and stronger, forming a circular boundary. Both arms swung out violently and smashed into the void, as if they hit something. Just listen to the bang. The space shattered like glass. The terrifying power of the shock spread, and the originally calm sea surface was dislocated like steps, and the naval headquarters was surrounded by monstrous tsunamis. The many marines below looked up at the scene that covered the sky and the sun, and couldn't help feeling terrified. Go, what are you kidding? Is this really a power a human being can achieve? Just when they were desperate, Aokiji Admiral, who had been sitting on the chair under the execution platform, moved. He jumped up and spread his arms in midair. 2 icicles shot out from the palm of his hand, and almost at the moment of contact with the overturned tsunami, the entire sea surface was frozen. The marine below was also rescued. This move could not help but relieve the crisis, and it also boosted the morale of those desperate marine elites. Yup, there are 3 admirals in our marine, as well as the marshal and the legendary marine hero Vice Admiral Garp. Especially Vice Admiral Garp, the powerful marine who captured One Piece alive. With them, even the strongest Whitebeard in the world has nothing to fear. As the sea surface was frozen, the pirates on the floating pirate ship finally had a place to stay. Jump off the boat one by one and rush towards the fort on Marineford. Attempt to log in. And after Aokiji who was admiral made a move, countless pirates jumped onto the ice. It's like sounding the horn of battle. Kizaru and Akainu shot one after another, and the shells of the marine fortress were fired towards the sea. The elites rushed forward, ready to fight. Surprisingly, among the Shichibukai who were forcibly recruited as foreign aid, Hawkeye, the strongest, also followed suit. An unremarkable swing of a knife. A bright green slash flew out, almost splitting the battlefield in 2 and crossing over, rerunning to the Mobility beam where the beard is located. When it was about to be cut, it actually stopped there. A figure with lights shining all over stood there. Diamond Josie. After seeing the appearance of that person clearly, someone recognized him immediately. It was Chao Zi, the captain of the 3rd team. Watching the battle gradually become fierce, the number of exhibitors is increasing. It seems that I have to make a move. While Aizen was talking, he spoke to more Lieutenant Junior Grade, also known as the News King Mergens, who was hidden in the crowd with a voice that others could not detect. Can you give me a picture? With honor, my king. After just a few days of getting along and talking, Morgans has been completely convinced by Aizen. He believes that as long as he stays with Aizen, there will be a steady stream of big news. And in the past few days, after successfully lurking in Marine, he has been able to seize control of the live broadcast. Under Aizen's order, several screens that affected the phone bug turned towards Aizen in an instant. The gentle and warm figure was displayed in front of the whole world in detail. Waist Zanpakuto unsheathed. Shatter. Kyoka Suigetsu. At this time the center of world power, the Holy Land Mariajoy. The 5 elders gathered together, also watching the live broadcast. When they saw Aizen pull out the saber at his waist, they couldn't help wondering, why did you give him all the pictures just now? That guy Sengoku still wants to take care of his students at a time like this. Coincidence. With Sengoku's character, you can't do crony things. Forget it, let's keep watching. I hope this plan can be successful, otherwise, Marshal Sengoku may be to blame. It wasn't just the 5 elders at the pinnacle of world power who saw this happening. Hello King Nuo, there are countless civilians and pirates. And countless forces that are paying attention to this battle. At this moment, they all witnessed the liberation of Kyoka Suigetsu with their own eyes. And Aizen, who had done all this, wanted to attract the attention of the people present, so he had no choice but to act. It's time to show off a little bit of strength. Aizen said cheers in a low voice. At this time, on the ice in front of the fortress, little Ozzy with a huge figure gradually approached. Ace, wait for me, I'm here to save you. As he walked straight towards the execution platform, a marine who seemed to him the size of an ant suddenly appeared. Go away, Marine, I'm going to rescue Ace. Little Ozzy raised his hand and was about to slap him away, but he heard a whisper in his ear. Hado no 90 Black Coffin. Chapter 89 Mastering the Audience, The Growth of Hogyoku. Advertise here. Go away, don't get in my way. Little Ozzy raised his hand and was about to slap him, and slap the tiny body in front of him. The strong wind pressure was blowing up, and the surrounding sailors retreated repeatedly under this pressure, and the weaker ones were already blown away. Aizen turned his palm forward, looked at little Ozzy and whispered softly, Hado no 90 Black Coffin. A pitch-black line rose in front of him, quickly surpassing the height of little Ozzy. Looking at the black thing blocking in front, little Ozzy raised the big knife in his hand angrily, and was about to chop down horizontally. Just haven't had time to act yet. The lines opened instantly to form a huge pitch-black cube, sealing little Ozzy's huge body inside. At this moment, almost everyone stopped what they were doing and looked there. Big. It's really huge. In front of the marine fortress, it is almost like a barrier separating the marine on land from the pirates on the ice. Oz. Marco and the others couldn't help but let out an exclamation when they saw this, and rushed over worried. Even Whitebeard's eyes froze, his fists clenched slightly, trying to use his ability to break it. On the marine side, many people also showed surprised expressions. As this Aizen Vice Admiral's hand 210. Really? Smoker. Does it make sense to build illusions this big? Hina. Senior's ability is really spectacular. Illusion. It's so scary that even I can't detect it. Kizaru was hanging in the air, looking at the big black box below, he couldn't help sighing. Just after he had just finished speaking, the black coffin disappears, revealing Oz inside. Blood splashed down like a rain of blood. Dense cuts appeared on little Ozzy's body, and blood covered his whole body, standing there like a pervert. Boom. Under the astonished gaze of everyone, Ozzy fell to his knees and fell heavily. Real. It turned out to be true. At this moment, everyone was looking at the figure of the man on the fort with horrified eyes. And Aizen, facing the Marines, was waiting for this moment. After letting people watching the live broadcast around the world witness the liberation of Kyoka Suigetsu, many Marines and pirates on the battlefield also witnessed this scene. Oz. Ace struggled and growled. Looking at the place where Ozzy fell, countless memories of the past emerged in his mind, and tears could not stop flowing from his eyes. It was his shout that brought everyone's consciousness back to reality. With just one move, he defeated little Ozzy, who was a devil. This can't help but make everyone wonder, is this really a Vice Admiral? Hey, is that guy's strength really only Vice Admiral? Has the senior's strength reached this level? He is indeed the one. Compared with the Marines and pirates who participated in the battle, the group with the strongest strength saw more things. Whitebeard looked at Aizen, who was facing him in the distant fortress, and couldn't help feeling angry. In any case, Ozzy was also the first captain he lost. As a father, he wants to make a move. He jumped off the Moby Dick and headed for the battlefield. And behind Aizen, Sengoku watched his disciple from afar. He should have been delighted, but he felt a sense of strangeness for no reason. Is this the ability that the phantom fruit should have? Aizen, what else do you have that I don't know? There was Shichibukai. Hawkeye watched Aizen's back, and looked at the knife in his hand. It really is a hidden powerhouse. I really want to try your blade. Doflamingo, who hadn't made a move yet, couldn't laugh at the moment, and looked at Aizen with a solemn face, without saying a word. At the first Shichibukai meeting, he didn't get along very well with this guy. Just when the entire battlefield was moved by Aizen's amazing move. The audience standing in front of the live broadcast was tricked by Kyoka Suigetsu. Although they are thousands of miles apart, the control of vision and hearing can still be carried out through live broadcast. Except for a few existences with powerful observation haki, they sensed a strange phenomenon disturbing their senses, and immediately used haki to spy on the truth in the picture. In the eyes of the remaining ordinary people and the weaker, Ozzy fell at the hands of Shichibukai and Admiral. Well, interesting kid. On Cake Island, the aunt of one of the four emperors, Charlotte Linlin, said while eating cream puffs while staring at the live broadcast. Katakuri, the second son not far from her and one of the four desert generals, also captured this point. Looking at the familiar figure inside, he was silent and didn't know what he was thinking. On the other side of the sea, the remaining four emperors are also engaged in a battle. The Red Hair pirates joined forces to stop Kaido, who was making trouble in Marineford. And the destination of their trip. Whitebeard jumps off the Moby Dick because of Oz's death. The strongest man in the world launched a fierce attack towards Aizen, followed by many pirates, and rushed towards the fortress of the marine port. Kill! Avenge Captain Oz! The shouts of killing sounded in the crowd, and with Whitebeard's blessing, they were fearless. Seeing this, the elite marines at the port were not to be outdone. The chaotic battle between the two sides has already begun. Whitebeard, who rushed towards Aizen, knocked out a giant vice admiral with a punch, and then fell from a high altitude, hitting Aizen head-on. Little devil, you hurt my son, but you have to pay the price. Seeing that the punch was about to land, Akainu unexpectedly rushed over at some point, went up to block Aizen. Whitebeard, Marine is not afraid of your threats. After finishing speaking, he did not forget to express his approval to Aizen behind him. Well done, killing the evil pirates is the justice of a qualified Marine. Seeing this, Aizen smiled slightly, and glanced at Kyoka Suigetsu in his hand. In this case, let the fire of battle burn more fiercely. Hypnosis launched, except for the few top powerhouses present. All exhibitors were immersed in the world woven by Aizen. Fierce fights, life-threatening battles. As if the accelerator button had been pressed, the casualties increased every minute and every second. A lot of soul power is filling here, lingering around Aizen. Drawn by the Hogyoku within him. Chapter 90 Rayleigh rescued. Target Marineford. Advertise here. No one who can participate in this war is weak. On the pirate side, who can become a member of the Four Emperors Whitebeard pirate group? How can there be ordinary people? On the Marine side, the 100,000 sailors who were recruited by the headquarters were all elites from various units. Countless strong men died in this Shura field like a meat grinder. And their soul abilities are also absorbed by Aizen's, Hogyoku. This blue-black ball, it is merging into Aizen's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. A powerful force was released from it, filling every cell in his body. Reaching out and stroking Hogyoku's chest that was already embedded in his body. Finally successfully merged, and everything that Zhu Fei has done is gone. Start with capturing Lafitte, make sure the ace is given to Marine, and let the summit war open as usual. To capture Rayleigh into Impel Down, and transform the interior of Impel Down. Is it just to stage a rebellious drama in front of people? Of course not. Only the soul of a strong man can accelerate the growth of Hogyoku, only the pressure of a strong enemy can make him evolve. When Aizen controls the constant fighting on the battlefield. On the other side of the Impel Down, Luffy has already met with the monster King Ivankov and the Revolutionary Army cadres. After learning that Luffy is the son of a dragon, the two also expressed that they would do their best to help him. Although there are still some misunderstandings in it. Ivankov also regards Luffy's big brother Ace as the son of the dragon. And with the help of these people, under Xiao Feng's deliberate guidance, everyone soon came to the 6th floor. Uncle Rayleigh, are you all right? Luffy looked at Rayleigh inside and asked happily. Looking at Luffy's innocent smile outside the cage, Fully felt both helpless and relieved. Well, it's not bad, it would be even better if there was wine to drink. Knowing that Rayleigh was fine, everyone was relieved, and Luffy also started to look for Ace. Ace was picked up early yesterday, you guys came too late. Jinbei, who was in the same cell as Ace before, leaned against the wall and said with a sigh. After learning the news, Luffy and others only hated themselves for coming too late, and immediately said they would go to Marineford to save Ace. Jinbei heard the words. If that's the case, let's count it in the picture. Hearing that they were going to flee here, the entire eternal hell boiled. Especially when I saw Mr. 3, who was brought by Xiao Feng, used a candle to conjure a key and opened the seastone handcuffs for Jinbei. I don't know how many hands stretched out from their respective cells. Let me out, I can help you escape together. Laozi is a great pirate with a bounty of 700 million, quickly open Laozi's prison door. Threats, entreaties, inducements. Everything. They are all messy guys. We can't put them back into the sea, otherwise the world will be in chaos. But if you want to escape from here, we alone are not enough. You need to make a mess here. Choose some reliable guys. Rayleigh, who was released, stretched his shackled wrists, and scanned the pirates in the deep cell. Jinbei agreed with his words and nodded his head in agreement. But this also caused some very self-aware guys in the cell to scold. You old bastard, where did you talk so much nonsense? And that blue fat-headed fish, do you know each other? Let Laozi out quickly, or Laozi will kill you. Just wake up those guys, and none of you will run away. I don't know who yelled such a sentence. The originally noisy 6th floor was suddenly quiet, and fell into a strange atmosphere. But soon, the person who just spoke was scolded by almost everyone else. You bastard, if you want to die, die yourself, don't say such dangerous words. Hey. Damn, how dare you. Under everyone's scolding, the man seemed to realize his slip of the tongue and shut his mouth. Jinbei has also seen a lot of weird remarks made by the old residents of the 6th floor. He didn't say anything after asking, and he didn't bother to answer after a long time. Just as they were about to leave, Crocodile in the next cell spoke. Straw Hat Boy, let me out, I'll go to Marineford with you. Knowing that Ace was publicly executed, he expected that Whitebeard would go back to save people. 0. Seeking flowers. If you go to Marineford now, you can meet it. The man he had challenged, but was defeated by. Luffy subconsciously refused, but Rayleigh and even agreed unexpectedly. After a brief discussion with all the partners, he was released. After selecting some reliable people, they also began to break out towards the upper echelons. During the chaos, Xiao Feng quietly left the main force. I don't know where to go. And at this moment, On the 4th floor above, the group of Blackbeard Teach who was one step later also encountered Magellan's obstruction. As soon as they fought, Magellan's venom knocked Teach and the others down, then turned and left. 0. I'm very busy now, you just stay here and die slowly. Shortly after he left, he lay on the ground pretending to be struck by a thunderbolt and got up. Magellan's venom is certainly terrifying, but he, who has been transformed into Aaronkar, doesn't like it. He can be killed and smashed. The only thing is that he won't die from this kind of toxin that only works on the body. He walked up to Teach who was lying unconscious on the ground. The performance carefully prepared by Master Aizen has already begun, but because of you and me, I have to stay here. It's really uncomfortable. As he spoke, he kicked him over. If you weren't on the invitation list for this show, I really want to kill you right now. Lafitte started the treatment helplessly, from Teach to poisonous Q. Soon, all members of the Blackbeard pirates were rescued by Lafitte. Teach sat on the ground panting heavily, showing a gaping tooth. Fortunately, he laughed. Thief, ha ha ha. Lafitte, it's really thanks to you. Otherwise we would have fallen this time. Where? These are what I should do. Lafitte's attitude made Teach very satisfied. Patting his chest, he said, from now on, you will be the deputy captain of the ship. Ah, that's really my honor. At this moment, Blackbeard Teach was immersed in the joy of being alive, completely oblivious to Lafitte's expression behind him. Playful eyes, and a cruel smile. Jong. Chapter 91. Walking in the garden among the tops. Advertise here. The battle for Marineford continues. The world's most pinnacle duel has not yet reached its climax. Hawkeye Mahawk, one of the Shichibukai, fought with Vista, Foil, the 5th captain of the Whitebeard pirates. The two swords collided, and sword aura crisscrossed all around. I have long wanted to experience the world's #1 technique. During the battle, Vista smiled and said to Hawkeye. It's just that this smile still couldn't hide the seriousness in his eyes. As expected of the world's #1 swordsman, he is indeed powerful. You are not bad at having such swordsmanship. Hawkeye also affirmed Vista's swordsmanship without hesitation. At the same time, on the other side, Diamond Joe's inserted his hands into the ice, lifted a large chunk of ice and threw it towards Marine. Facing the ice falling like a meteorite, the Marine below scattered to avoid. 473. Admiral Akainu went up against the crowd. Drops of magma dripped from the elemental arm, looking at the ice above his head. He punched out. Great eruption. The magma erupted continuously, and the ice cubes were melted and evaporated the moment they met the magma. After coming into contact with the ice crisis, Sleepy Sky's offensive continued unabated. Fists up. Meteor volcano. Arms in the form of magma shot out like bullets, and fell like a rain of fire after hitting the clouds. A large number of Marines staying on the ice on the sea surface were attacked. At the same time, the ice under their feet began to melt, and the Whitebeard pirates were at a disadvantage for a while. Oh, looks like I can't be too idle. Seeing this, Kizaru crossed his hands, and lasers flickered in the dark. 8-foot Chong Guyu. A yellow laser shoots straight for Whitebeard's face. Whitebeard dodged the blow and looked towards the direction of Kizaru in the sky. Gu la la la. Kizaru kid, it seems that you are still too immature. As he said that, he punched out, and the terrifying power of the shock spread instantly. The many Marine fighters who were besieging him were all blown away, forming a vacuum around him. Seeing this, Kizaru was about to attack again, but saw a blue flame attacking quickly. Phoenix Seal. The sharp claws carrying blue flames kicked towards him. Fortunately, Kizaru reacted in time and quickly elementalized to escape the blow. Seeing the person coming, it is Marco, the captain of the first team under the Whitebeard pirates. Zone Bird Fruit Phantom Beast Species Phoenix form of ability. It's really dangerous, Kizaru said with a look of fear. Marco flew into the air. Although he missed a hit, he was not annoyed. On the contrary, he ignited a raging fighting spirit and said to the old man behind him, Dad, leave him to me. Hearing this, Whitebeard slashed the attacking Marine with a knife, and said with a big smile, Gu la la la. It's so reliable, my son. Of course, with the approval of his father, Marco felt angry and staged it. The state of the whole person is different. Fighting with Kizaru has become much more aggressive. This caused Kizaru, who was fishing in Ishin, a headache. Young people who are motivated are really troublesome. When all the bosses were fighting each other, because of their previous performance. Aizen has also gotten a lot of attention, with many of the top Whitebeard pirates focusing on him. For example, Yizang, Buffalo, Atmos. All captains. It's just that in their eyes, they are against Aizen. But the reality is that they are killing each other under the control of Kyoka Suigetsu. The real Aizen is like walking in a garden full of killings everywhere. Slowly wandering among them, swinging a knife from time to time. Kill the guy at hand. It's not for killing the enemy, it's just a wave that happens to be at hand. During this chaotic war, many middle and lower class people were hypnosised by Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu, but there were also some people who were not affected. They are either top powerhouses like Garp, Sengoku, Whitebeard. Either have top-level observation haki, such as 3 Admiral, Hawkeye and the like. Another kind is born with strong spiritual power. Although the strength is not enough, it has the powerful spiritual power of Conqueror's haki. Such as Empress, Boa Hancock, Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo. The rest are only those, our own people, who have surrendered to Aizen. Yuta, Moria, Zephyr. They mixed in the crowd and participated in the battle, waiting for the real opening of the show. And among them, if anyone gives Aizen the most attention, it must be Doflamingo. He had quarreled with Aizen, and after that Shichibukai meeting, he didn't know how many times he wanted to kill Aizen. But at the time, it was just a thought under anger. Now that he has discovered Aizen's terrifying means, he doesn't want to let it go. After all, cutting weeds has to get rid of the roots. Now that there is already a dispute, the best solution is naturally to erase the source of the dispute. Brother Ming watched Aizen walk gracefully on the battlefield. The more he watched, the more unhappy he became. Simply wave your palm. 5 color strings. 5 extremely thin silk threads are attacking Aizen's back, which is both a sneak attack and a temptation. The attack came quickly behind Aizen. Just when Brother Ming was surprised why he didn't block it, another Shichibukai flew to block there and forcibly received Brother Ming's attack. Doflamingo, do you want to die? Moria looked at Brother Ming fiercely, as if she wanted to swallow him alive. Those eyes startled the always crazy Brother Ming. He showed a puzzled expression, his eyes swept over Aizen's back and Moria's face repeatedly. After hearing Aizen say, "Thanks for your hard work," the whole person seemed to be enlightened. 4.2. The smile on his face also went crazy. Foo-fur-fur. I knew it. Brother Ming stroked his forehead with one hand and laughed. I knew that a man like you would not be willing to be lonely. He looked at Moria again. Brother Ming's eyes seemed to have discovered something novel. As one of the 7 warlords of the Sea of the World Government Alliance, it is actually a subordinate of a vice admiral in its subsidiary Marine. Fun. It was so much fun. Brother Ming smiled wantonly and said. It's just that the people around turned a deaf ear to it. Because their senses are under Aizen's control. Aizen turned slightly sideways, looked back at Brother Ming and said softly, I let you find out. Saint Doflamingo. Chapter 92. Protector of Moria, Returning Blade, Shadow Knight. Advertise here. I let you find out. Saint Doflamingo. Saint Doflamingo. What a familiar name, that's what those servants called him when he was a child. Just now, hearing this title again, he would only feel deep humiliation and lingering anger. The wild smile on Brother Ming's face began to recede, and he looked at Aizen with murderous intent. Conqueror's Haki is released with it. For a while, it attracted the attention of many people. Doflamingo. What does that madman want? Looks like he's going to attack that Marine. Ha ha ha, is the guy who's allied with Marine going to fight? Dogs eat dogs best. Standing on the execution platform, Sengoku looked into them and frowned. What kind of tricks are those people playing? I hope he doesn't do anything outrageous, otherwise, I don't care if he used to be celestial dragons. He took a deep look at them and stopped paying attention when he saw that they were not fighting. The battlefield is changing rapidly, as the commander-in-chief of 06 Marine. What he wants to control is the overall situation. While he was concentrating on observing the battlefield, the grandpa and grandson behind him seemed out of tune with all this. When others shouted to kill, they poured out their hearts and regretted that such a thing happened. Sorry Ace, I'm Marine. Grandpa, it's okay. I expected it from the moment I was born. The grandfather and grandson chatted without saying a word. Compared with Ace's calmness at the moment, Garp's heart is struggling and painful. Until Ace inadvertently said, "It's just a pity that I failed Mr. Aizen's expectations, and this war still started." He looked down at the countless dead and wounded compatriots of the Whitebeard regiment with a sad expression on his face. But he didn't notice that Garp's face turned cold suddenly. Even Sengoku, who stood in front of them and ignored them all the time, couldn't help but turned his head, looked at Ace and asked, Aizen's expectations. Do you know Aizen? Garp didn't speak, but his clenched fist said it all. At this moment, he was extremely restless, because he didn't know how many thoughts flashed through his mind. Ace said with a bitter smile. I met Mr. Aizen in the first half, he told me the whereabouts of Blackbeard Teach. He succinctly repeated what Aizen had said to him. This made the nervous Sengoku feel relieved. According to what Aizen said to Ace, he was worried that Blackbeard, a traitor, would trigger a conflict with the Whitebeard pirates after becoming Shichibukai. That's why I entrusted Ace to take action, hoping that he can defeat Teach in advance. It was for Garp's sake, without knowing the identity of Ace's bloodline. That's it. After learning what happened, Sengoku glanced at Garp who clenched his fist. He said something lightly, and then turned his head away. It's not a big deal to let Ace go. On the premise of not knowing that Ace's father is Luogia, even he himself will give Garp this face. Because of Aizen's amazing performance before, Sengoku even had doubts about Aizen. After hearing Ace's words, his restless heart calmed down a little. The war continues. Brother Ming roared and looked at Aizen, his hands and fingers kept dancing, dragging the Marine battle kings around him. Manipulate their bodies to attack Aizen. Foo-fur-fur. Do you want to do it, Aizen? Kill them and reveal your truest appearance. Let the world see your hypocrisy. Brother Ming ignored Moria and kept provoking Aizen. He knew that the man in front of him had a very high prestige among the civilians, and even among the Marines. If it wasn't for hiding his true strength, and it wasn't Marine Admiral, the next Yuan might fall into his hands. What Brother Ming wants to do now is to force out his original shape. As long as you expose everything about yourself, no matter what kind of ambition you have, it will come to nothing, right? Come on. Let everyone in Marine see how the object of their adoration raises the butcher's knife. His plan is good, but unfortunately, Aizen ignored him after saying, Saint Doflamingo. Didn't even look at the past. Those Marines who attacked Aizen were turned into fly ash under the sun before they could get close to Aizen. Don't disturb your lord's interest, you Oda. Moria held the few marine shadows that had just been harvested with one hand, and said with disdain. In his opinion, what Brother Ming said just now is simply a clown who doesn't know the so-called. Wants to sabotage Lord Aizen's plans. Does Brother Ming have that strength? Moria took out Zanpakuto from her waist. Since you want to play, let me play with you. Hearing this, Brother Ming let out a series of wild laughter. Furfur. It just so happens that I've wanted to try it out with you a long time ago. Brother Ming said meaningfully, and then he still did not forget to sneer. I heard that you have fought against Kaido before, I don't know how much strength you have back then. Just try it and you'll know. Moria tightened her grip on the knife, a fierce light flashed in her eyes. Bullet string. The thin thread from Mingo's fingertips shot out at high speed like a bullet. The blade in Moria's hand turned slightly, and blocked the blow. That's all you have to do. Fufurfur. The fun is just beginning. Brother Ming's figure flickered. Songshi instantly appeared on top of Moria's head. He kicked down, and 8 thin threads issued from the soles of his feet like 8 swords, each of which was attached to the armament hockey. Moria didn't hardwire, and disappeared in place with a ring. When he reappeared, he was already behind Brother Ming. Your shadow, my uncle 277 accepts it. He slashed at Brother Ming's feet, and he was about to cut off Brother Ming's shadow. But at the moment when the blade touched it, he noticed something was wrong. Immediately turned around and slashed at Brother Ming's neck. I saw this, Brother Ming, there was no bloodline on the incision of the neck. After the head fell, looking down, the body was not hollow. Just as Moria was startled, a thin line cut across his abdomen. If he hadn't dodged in time, he might have been cut in half. Fufurfur, is my shadow knight string okay? Brother Ming said jokingly. Apparently the ugly look on Moria's face gave him great pleasure. But Moria glanced at her wound and snorted coldly. Aaroncar's high-speed regeneration was activated. The wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this, Brother Ming couldn't help but look solemn. Hey. This is not the ability that Yingying fruit should have. It seems that you have obtained something extraordinary from that guy. He didn't need to think about it to know that it must be from that Aizen's handwriting. Otherwise, just based on his knowledge of Moria's information, he dared to conclude that the other party absolutely did not have this ability. Moria sneered. Want to know? You have to show enough strength. I happen to have a move, which is very similar to the name of your avatar ability just now. Let you see it. As he spoke, the tip of the knife was facing down, and he held the knife with both hands behind his back. Slamming Zanpakuto into the ground, he nailed it to his own shadow. Show allegiance to me, Shadow Knight. Chapter 93 Sengoku's attention, Zephyr meets Whitebeard. Advertise here. Show allegiance to me, Shadow Knight. Moria's body exuded a dark purple light, and the powerful aura that erupted created a wave of air. On this chaotic battlefield, it has attracted the attention of countless people. This kind of energy area is completely different from hockey, and it doesn't look like a fruit ability. It also made the top powerhouses on the battlefield cast their eyes. Gu la la la. Is that kid Moria? It doesn't look so bad. Kong Yunchi swept across in Whitebeard's hand, forcing all the Marines back. On the other side, Hawkeye, who was still fighting with Bistabi in swordsmanship, knocked back his opponent with a slash and severely wounded him. Taking advantage of this gap, he looked in the direction of Moria over there. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced at Aizen, and saw that he still had that calm smile on his face. Hawkeye couldn't help frowning, thinking about Aizen's intentions. It seems that you caused Moria's change, what a strange knife. As early as the Shichibukai meeting a few days ago. He noticed the difference in the saber on Moria's waist. He would not admit the feeling that it was completely different from ordinary swords, as if it had its own life. When the invitation to Aizen was issued before, there were also reasons for this. I sensed the strangeness of the Aizen saber. And now on this battlefield, not only Moria, but even the adjutant named Yuta, and the former Admiral Black Arm Zephyr all have such similar sabers. He had to have some doubts. At this moment, Kizaru, who had just fought with Marco in midair, took a breath with difficulty. Turning his head just in time to see Moria's figure emerging from the dust and smoke. Can't help showing a surprised expression. Can the shadow fruit still be used like this? It's really a terrible development ability. I saw the dark purple Reiatsu on Moria's body restrained, and her figure came out of the dust. The whole body seems to be wearing pale night bone armor, but his right hand is like a black hole that absorbs all colors. Dark, deep, it seems to be sucking the soul of everything into it. Looking carefully, it seems that you can still hear Yuan Hao's screams. The person who felt this gloomy and hopeless feeling most deeply was Brother Ming, who watched the whole process closely. Fufurfur, is this your guard of honor? It doesn't look any different. Even though he said so, the seriousness on his face at this moment could not deceive anyone. He could feel that the Moria at this moment was completely different from before. It was obviously not Conqueror's hockey, but it could bring him the slightest bit of real pressure. Is there no difference? There was a little playfulness in Moria's eyes, and then the whole person disappeared in place. When he reappeared, he was already standing behind Brother Ming. Dropping ruffian string. Sensing the strange situation behind him, Brother Ming suddenly turned around and waved his fingers down. Several thin threads entwined with armament hockey descended from the sky and passed through. However, when these attacks were about to pierce Moria's body, they were blocked by the same thin lines. Those few thin lines are almost exactly the same as Mingo's move, dropping ruffian string, except that its pure white color is opposite. It looks pitch black. Brother Ming frowned, and looked at Moria with a bit of surprise. He couldn't be wrong, the move just now was his dropping ruffian string. What the hell did you do? He. Facing Brother Ming's question, Moria sneered. It was only at this time that Brother Ming noticed that his shadow was stepped on by Moria, and it had been elongated and deformed as he moved. But still being stepped on by Moria. This made him feel a little uneasy. The shadow was being stepped on by an ability user with the shadow fruit. No matter how you think about it, it's not a good thing. Just when he was about to launch a violent attack to force Moria back, his uneasy premonition came true. See, my lord. A dark figure rose from Moria's feet. Although its face cannot be seen clearly, judging from its outline, it is not difficult to see that it is Doflamingo. What the hell did you do? When Brother Ming saw this, his anger couldn't stop rising, and the veins on his forehead popped up. He questioned the Moria, but Moria just glanced at him indifferently. As you can see, this is my Shadow Knight, which has the same ability as yours, and is much more powerful than your Shadow Knight string. He. After listening to his explanation, Brother Ming became even more angry. After a long silence, there was a long roar. Fufurfur. It's the same ability as mine. Let me take a good look at it. Saying that, he released the Conqueror's hockey, pressing on Moria and the imposter coming out of his shadow. The two also quickly entered a fighting state. Their fight left Sengoku frowning. These lawless bastards, calling them here will only add to the chaos. After cursing angrily, he ignored it. If these Shichibukai bastards couldn't help, two were killed. Even though he said so, Moria still caught his attention. This kind of terrifying ability is not found in the records of Shadow Fruit ability users in the past. How could he have such a weird ability? Forget it, let's deal with it after the war is over. On the other side, Yuta and the others who sensed Moria's return also had different attitudes. A pirate is a pirate, a guy with no rules. Zephyr punches Feedy Carl brothers, looking at Whitebeard not far away. Leap forward and dive over. Newgate, long time no see. Whitebeard folded his body and fisted. Gu la la la. How are you, old friend? The strength of the two collided, and they were at a stalemate for a while. But after a few hours, Whitebeard was superior and blasted Zephyr out. Not bad, Zephyr. Zephyr crawled out of the ruins, shaking off the rubble from his body. He said with a smile. You are much worse than before. Really, you must have misread it. Saying that, Whitebeard dropped a kainu, and punched Zephyr again. Morgans, who had a panoramic view of all this, was already so excited that he couldn't help himself. Great demon. It's great. Sure enough, I was so happy to join Yinran. These first-hand big news, the pleasure of being in it. Simply addicted. Suddenly the phone bug on his waist rang. It was the pony in Impel Down. The poor wretch controlled by grown-up's ability. This is Morgans. Straw Hat Luffy and his gang have escaped from Impel Down with Pluton Rayleigh, Hexia Jinbei, Sand Crocodile and others. Chapter 94 The Secret of Impel Down, the truth about to be revealed. Advertise here. Almost at the same time when Morgans received the news. Sengoku also received a call from Impel Down, Magellan said weakly on the other side of the phone. Straw Hat Crew and Blackbeard teach storm Impel Down, and Impel Down is completely lost. What? Sengoku couldn't help sweating all over his body after hearing this. You must know that the people imprisoned in Impel Down are all the guys who do all kinds of crimes in the sea, especially the group of villains on the 6th floor. If we let them all return to the sea, the world will really be in chaos. But now, looking at the already chaotic battlefield in front of him, he couldn't help feeling a headache. Now it is really impossible to tell the extra military support. Damn Blackbeard. Damn Straw Hat Crew. Sengoku suddenly turned his head to look at Garp. Asshole, it's your family again. On the marine warship that was snatched from the other side, Luffy and others rushed to Marineford with a large group of prisoners who had escaped from Impel Down. Those prisoners who had been tortured in the prison for a long time saw the sun again, and all of them burst into tears with excitement. Woo. I don't want to go back to that ghostly place again, even if I die. They hugged each other and cried, rejoicing that they were born again at this moment. But Zoro and others were surprised. These guys are also guys with a lot of bounties. Thinking about it, the mind shouldn't be like this. Even something like Buggy can last so long, it shouldn't be. As if sensing his disrespectful gaze, Buggy exploded immediately, and flew in front of Zoro with his upper body separated. Hey, You green-haired guy, what happened to your eyes just now? Are you thinking about something impolite? Damn it, if it weren't for the sake of you guys rescuing me, I'd throw you down to feed the crocodiles right now. He yelled and grabbed Zoro by the neckline questioningly. Zoro didn't want to talk to him, but just denied it too much. No. Ah, you must have some. Damn it, then why don't you dare look at me? Nothing is nothing. Rayleigh couldn't help but laugh at the pair's banter. Ha ha ha, Buggy, don't be angry. When Buggy heard Rayleigh's words, he couldn't pursue it anymore, so he had to put down Zoro's collar unhappily. Reluctantly said, since you have said so, the deputy captain, then I will let him go. The subconscious answer caused everyone to exclaim. Deputy captain. N. Hundreds of people on a ship spoke in unison. The sound resounded on the sea, and I don't know how far it spread. Pluton Rayleigh, the right wrist of One Piece, that guy called him the vice captain. Could it be? Really added by 973. It's surprising that he has such a background. Discussion spread on the ship. After Buggy heard it, he was afraid for a while, and the whole person became guilty. I'm going to die. If Marine finds out about it, I'll be miserable. Just when he was about to deny, I heard Rayleigh over there say, Buggy is very powerful, and Shanks were very good partners when we were on the boat. Shanks. 4 emperors that Shanks. That's right, the one who can say it from Pluton Rayleigh must be that one. Didn't expect him to be the partner of 4 emperors Shanks, doesn't that mean? The eyes of all the prisoners were shining, and they looked at Buggy with admiration. Even Crocodile and Jinbei cast strange glances. Although the crew of One Piece is glorious, it is even more surprising that they are the partners of the 4 emperors. Buggy wanted to explain guiltily, but under their adoring gaze. Vanity still made him choose to shut up. This red nose actually has such a background, I am really surprised. Jinbei said unexpectedly, and this red nose also successfully set off Buggy's anger and passiveness, and he leaned in front of Jinbei with great courage. You damn blue fat fish, did you just say red nose? Who is the red nose? Believe it or not, I'll kill you right now. That arrogant attitude was completely different from usual. Those who walked along the way couldn't help but wonder if they really knew this guy. And the eyes of the prisoners who escaped from Impel Down were even more adored. As expected of the red-haired partner of the 4 emperors, he threatened to kill Shichibukai Jinbei. It's really amazing. Yes, with such a powerful person, and the legendary Pluton Rayleigh, even in naval headquarters we don't have to be afraid of that demon named Aizen. The prisoners became even more agitated when they heard that there was no need to be afraid of Aizen. One by one can't wait to hug each other and cry bitterly. And that made Straw Hat Crew's heart skip a beat. Sanji ran up to them directly and asked, why are you so afraid of that guy named Aizen? Isn't his reputation among the common people quite good? The 2 fat men who were asked by him recalled the fear in Impel Down, and couldn't help shivering all over their bodies. When I heard Sanji say that Aizen has a good reputation, I was even more excited and almost jumped up. Others who were not asked were also very excited. Someone in the crowd yelled, that guy is a complete devil, a devil in a mask of hypocrisy. AGBB, upon hearing this, it's not just Luffy and the others. Even Rayleigh, Jinbei, and Crocodile couldn't help but wonder. If they are only arrested and detained, this is just a matter of the position of the Marines and the pirates, and the weak have nothing to complain about. But isn't it a little too much to say that he is so unbearable? Especially Jinbei. After listening to Ace's talk about his communication with Aizen, he once had a good impression of Aizen. Seeing that they all looked unbelieving, the person who spoke became anxious on the spot. He repeatedly defended and said, you believe me, what I say is true. When others were dubious, Brook stood up. He who was always out of tune became serious. Walked up to the man and said, I believe in you. Brook. Luffy looked at him with some puzzlement, not only him but also the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates. Especially Robin, she bit her lip. Heart is very tangled. When I was still in the Devil's Triangle Sea area, he and a guy in a top hat approached me. Brook's voice was extremely soft, but his body was trembling slightly. After calming down, he continued, I don't remember what he did to me at that time, I only remember the words he said when we met. What did he say? Robin listened to these words verbatim, and asked anxiously. Brook stared at her with empty sockets, and spoke slowly. He wants to go to the underworld through me. Underworld. For some reason, everyone couldn't help but shudder at this moment. Everyone in the Straw Hats, who knew the power of Brook's fruit, lowered their heads and pondered the deep meaning. Robin was silent, and Brook's voice continued. I don't know what he did to me, but I guess it wasn't a good thing. Yo ho 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 ho. After speaking, he was silent for a while, and said solemnly, it hurts a lot. Just a few words, as if nothing was said. But it's like saying everything. The prisoner seemed to find resonance with Brook, and the tears couldn't stop streaming down his face. Woo woo woo. That demon, he captured the pirates in Impel Down, and did terrible experiments. Those monsters named Shu are all made by him, everyone is a prisoner in Impel Down. As he spoke, he seemed to be afraid that others would not believe him, tearing off the clothes on his chest. Under the sunlight, everyone could see it clearly. A circular wound with deep visible bone, if it wasn't for the white bony thing spreading out from it, it would have just blocked it. I'm afraid he's already dead. This is. Luffy and the others looked at each other. Like, so much like. Whether it is compared with Shu, or with Enel and Moria, they are really too similar. It was because I failed the experiment that I escaped my life. His words also aroused the response of many people, one after another complained about Aizen's evil deeds in Impel Down. Experiment with prisoners to create monsters like Shu. Some people's failure in transformation directly leads to the collapse of their bodies and souls, and some people become mindless. If you are lucky, you can barely leave a complete body. There are very few failed products like the one that survived just now, so rare that Aizen even spared their lives and wanted to keep them for future observation. So that's the case. No wonder I felt a lot of corpses in Impel Down, and there was no breath of soul on my body, like an empty shell. Brooks said suddenly. Luffy was even more angry when he heard that his companion had been treated like this before, and shouted, I must expose that bastard. By the way, Yuta must have been deceived by him to follow him. I must rescue Yuta and Ace. Rayleigh, Jinbei and the others looked at each other, and they also saw the solemnity in each other's eyes. In this way, Aizen is indeed a terrible guy. Especially Rayleigh has played against Aizen before, and he has gained the strength of the opponent. If you count this scheming mansion that fools the world. I'm afraid this is another evil existence comparable to Rock's. But Jinbei thought about the relationship between Ace and Aizen, and couldn't help guessing what kind of conspiracy it would be. After all, in their self-reports, this Aizen is not like someone who will be so kind to Ace. Crocodile, who was silent all the time, stood up at this moment, touched a cigar from somewhere, and lit himself. You guys on the 6th floor are afraid of him because of that monster called Shu. The guys who came out of the 6th floor looked at each other and looked at each other. You pushed me to FK and refused to say. Finally, under the threat of Crocodile, someone from the regiment stood up. You can say yes, or you can say no. Is it right? Tell me clearly. Lao Shaw's patience was obviously running low, so he put the hook on his hand around the man's neck and forced him to ask. Although that person also came from the 6th floor, there is still a considerable gap in strength between him and Lao Shaw. He stammered and replied. That monster called Shu was just the most basic trash, and only Manos Grande is a truly terrifying thing. Manos Grande. Afterwards, the man told the information about the junior Manos Grande Jillian and the middle Manos Grande Ajukas. It's just that there is too little information about the superior Manos Grande Vasto Lord. On the 6th floor is also a legendary existence. He is only vaguely aware of this concept. That's all I know. Lao Shaw lowered his claws and turned around, not knowing what he was thinking. And Straw Hat Crew and Rayleigh, who got more information, mentioned Aizen's danger level again and again in their hearts. Luffy is determined to defeat Aizen. Rayleigh also expressed his full support for this. Asterisk 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 asterisk. On the other side, in the eternal hell on the 6th floor of Impel Down. Blackbeard Teach was full of spirits, and said with a smile, a thief haha. If you want to go out, be my partner. 11. Let's fight, I only need the strongest ones. Thief ha 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 equals. Countless legendary pirates are crazily killing in order to become their subordinates. It's such a wonderful feeling. Teach thinks like this, just thinking about it. The imagined madness did not appear, and the guys in the prison looked at him like a fool. Where did the idiot come from? Kill people here, what if the monster in the sticking out is drawn out? Bring it out. Based on our current state, I'm afraid that a few Ajukas under him can tear us all alive. Their discussion aroused Teach's doubts. You guys, don't you want to go out? Or are you willing to die here? He questioned unwillingly. There is even the anger that arises from unsatisfied vain desires. Of course it's okay to die. It's not enough to die in this place, it's very dangerous here. Little black fat man, if you really want to recruit us, let us out first, then we will give you a satisfactory result. What they said made Blackbeard feel even more fooled. Anger began to surge uncontrollably. You are courting death. The black energy in his hand gathered, and he was about to attack the guy who just called him a little black fat man. But at the moment of striking, he was hit by several conquerors' hockey. Stop it, boy, you really can't die here. If you let that scary guy come out, you will die. An old voice came from the depths of the 6th floor. Teach is just starting, but due to the aftermath of the conqueror's attack just now, I still looked over. I found a white-haired old man with a lip ring on his lips and a braid on his head sitting inside. No, I didn't expect it to be you. There is really a big guy here. Thieves ha ha ha. The last laugh was obviously weak. Obviously he was shocked by the old man in front of him. He has the titles of Lonely Red and Red Earl. Rumored to be on par with Whitebeard and One Piece Luogia. Beloric Redfield, the kid next to Newgate. The Red Earl raised his eyes to look at Teach, and said expressionlessly, you can come here to show that your strength is not bad, but it's best not to provoke the innermost guy. Although his strength is not that terrible, the people here are all perennial prisoners, and their strength is far from the peak, so they will really die. If it was someone else, Teach might scoff. But the person in front of him still believed what he said. After all, the name of Lonely Red is not for nothing, a guy as arrogant as him will not tell lies. Thief ha ha ha, since the seniors have said so, of course I still believe it. Teach didn't ask much, turned around and asked in the cell behind him. Since no one can die here, who of you dares to go with me to naval headquarters to make a scene? It was silent again, and everyone still didn't speak. Teach's expression turned ugly. Bullet, who had been silent for a while, walked to the edge of the cage. Making a scene? If so, let me go. Are you going to be my crew? Looking at Bullet, Teach's eyes flickered, and he asked uncertainly. If it was a guy with some reputation, of course he agreed, but the guy in front of him was extremely powerful. Now he can't guarantee that he can suppress this monster at all. If there is a problem at that time, who is the captain? He glanced at Teach's question with disdain. Since you're not qualified to take me on board, I just want to go to naval headquarters and make a fuss. If that guy is here, I'll tear him to pieces. Bullet said sharply. Although Teach was upset after hearing this, he was also deeply relieved. Thief, haha. In that case, as a condition for letting you out, I want you to do me a favor then. Can. Chapter 95 Impel Down is gone. Participants will be seated soon. Advertise here. Although he failed to achieve his wish, with the help of the Red Earl, Teach still recruited a group of masters. Almost the same choice as the original trajectory. The evil government king, the Xuanyu hunter, the wine barrel, and Shiryu of the rain, and a few other guys with weird names. But without exception, they are all guys who have been famous in the New World. Glancing at the few people in front of him, the Red Earl turned around and said, a few of them sincerely agreed to your conditions, and the rest of them didn't. Use the special knowledge color that can read the mind to help Teach identify. This is his deal with Teach. After getting the answer from the Red Earl, she also fulfilled the agreement and opened his cage. Thief, haha. Read mind. It's really a convenient ability. He said so on the lips, but in his heart he was extremely jealous of this, in front of him. The Red Earl seemed to see his concerns, and turned to the elevator to seek medical attention. While walking, he said, don't worry, I, Redfield, won't play tricks with you, a junior. I have my own business in Marineford, and I won't hinder you. This is the best, thief, haha. Teach laughed a few times hypocritically, and left with his subordinates behind him. As for the remaining people, Teach didn't bother to release them. He neither dared to fight to join him, nor dared to go to naval headquarters with him to make a fight. What's the use of them? There was no begging or cursing from those behind him at all. Please let me out, I don't want to stay here anymore, it's horrible. Fatty Black, open the door for Lousy, or Lousy will kill you sooner or later. Ah, that guy must be in naval headquarters too, I'll see how you die then. Garbage should look like garbage, you trash just die of old age here. Pulling the lift, the Teach gang left with the new members, as well as the temporarily cooperating Bullet and the Red Earl. Lafitte stood behind the crowd, staring at the depths of the 6th floor. He noticed it. The same breath. Almost at the same time, in the deep darkness, a pair of lifeless eyes looked over. Go through the entire eternal hell, and look at Lafitte who is about to leave. Is he also arranged by adults? Aaronkar. Soon, I'm about to evolve too. There was brief eye contact, and no one noticed. Only the Red Earl frowned and looked at Lafitte, his observation hockey couldn't read any heartfelt words. The other party is like a blank body lacking emotion. This feeling is very similar to Shu. As if sensing his gaze, Lafitte turned to look at the Red Earl. There was a smile on the scarlet lips, and he raised his top hat slightly to say hello. The Red Earl withdrew his gaze and ignored it. Anyway, whether it is or not, it has nothing to do with him. It's the kid who used to be with Whitebeard that's the one to worry about. He glanced at Teach and said nothing. When they walked out of Impel Down smoothly, Enel, who had been waiting for a long time in the sky, plucked his ears. The efficiency of mortals is really bad. I have waited long enough for this envoy. As he spoke, he put away his crossed legs and stood up. The Reiatsu on his body was faintly released, connecting to the depths of Impel Down. The army is 8 inches long, there is absolutely no reason to retreat. The blue bolt, bite each other and sink into the sea, the gate of the dragon's tail, the gate of the phoenix wing, the gate of the 4 beasts. Quote. Following a long series of chants, the entire Impel Down trembled violently, as if it was about to be pulled out of the bottom of the sea by a huge force. Surrounded by barriers of various shapes, it is like a barrier that seals off the space where Impel Down is located, making it airtight. What the hell happened? Magellan, who was seriously injured and unconscious in the Impel Down, woke up slowly, trying to get up weakly. But a big hand was pressing on top of his head, preventing him from using any strength. After seeing the man's appearance clearly, Magellan couldn't help exclaiming, Berndi Waldo. Didn't you die a long time ago? He did remember. World Destroyer Berndi Waldo, he was the one who cleaned up the opponent's body back then. Now it unexpectedly appeared in front of him again. Are the prison rumors among the jailers true? There are ghosts in this Impel Down. The man with almost the same face as Waldo glanced at him, and said after a moment of silence, Berndi Waldo. Even you know it, it seems that the person in front of me is called this. 0. Ask for flowers. Forget it, no matter what I was before, I am now a Vasto Lord class Manos Grande, that D. Valdo. As he spoke, he fetched a seastone handcuff from somewhere and put it on Magellan. Then quickly captured the interior of Impel Down with a few Ijukas under his command. And that frightening guy on the 6th floor is him. After chanting, Enel couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Despite being Arankar who possesses Shinigami powers, he is also able to use the Kido taught by Master Aizen. But this is still a bit too difficult for him, far less handy than his own virtual power. Leave the rest to me, Enel. Yuta, who broke away from Summit War at some time, appeared here. She slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto from her waist, and said to Enel. Then the whole body Reiatsu broke out, Zanpakuto Shikai. Sing it. Diva. Amplification of Kido with Shikai power. Under the condition of being extremely overdrawn, UTA exhibited one of the few top-level forbidden techniques in Sidao. Space transfer. In an instant, the situation changed suddenly, and the huge Impel Down disappeared out of thin air. The sea water began to flow backwards, rolling up a huge Uzumaki, as if to swallow up the surrounding sea area. Fortunately, Blackbeard they have passed through the gates of justice. Otherwise, I'm afraid they will all stay here. The exhausted Yuta had difficulty maintaining Reiatsu, and his body began to fall. Enel caught her. Did it work? Successful. Now Impel Down has been teleported to Sky Island, and I have made all the arrangements there. With a haggard face, Yuta said weakly. Enel nodded upon hearing that. Impel Down now, with Berndi Waldo inside. Outside there are Whitebeard troops who have been awarded Reiatsu by Yuta, transformed into Shinigami. So they don't worry about sending Impel Down to Sky Island. What will happen? Now the actors invited by Master Aizen will also be in place, and it's time for us to get ready for the stage. Chapter 96 Aizen's Choice. Straw Hat Crew arrives on the battlefield. Advertise here. On the battlefield at Naval Headquarters Marineford. Whitebeard, who had been fighting for a long time, finally noticed something strange. Those Marines who besieged him all came towards him as if desperate, and their expressions were dull, like puppets. Not only them, but those stupid sons on his own ship. Just after he repelled Zephyr and Akainu, he saw Azang and Atmos fighting together. The two men's moves were fatal, and they looked like they were killing each other. It seems that there is some deep hatred. And such cases are not uncommon. On the entire battlefield, whether it is marine or pirates, everything is in chaos. There are aimless and senseless killings everywhere. At this time, Akainu and Zephyr attacked again. And Whitebeard is worried about his sons, and he is very disturbed by their attacks. Immediately shot with anger, holding Kong Yunchi in one hand to block Zephyr's attack, and the ability of the Japanese hand shock fruit was condensed. Throwing a punch at Akainu violently, he growled and shouted. Go away, old man. The sound resounded through the sky and spread throughout the entire battlefield. The powerful destructive force not only seriously injured Akainu, but also shook the entire Marineford, as the abyss-like gully spread around him. Accompanied by a group of companions, there is also the monstrous spirit of the tyrant. The powerful conqueror's haki swept across, causing tens of thousands of people on the battlefield to stop their attacks, and more than half of them gradually lost their minds. The weak one fell to the ground on the spot. Suddenly, Haki, the strongest man in the world, invaded. With such power, even the three admirals, Akainu, Kizaru, Aokiji, etc. had to avoid the edge for a while, and quickly distanced themselves from Whitebeard. Allah, the strongest man in the world is about to show his power. Aokiji crossed his arms against his chest, sighing with Whitebeard's strength. On the other side, Kizaru, who is also one of the admirals, kicked off Marco's attack at the 480 at the moment, and instantly elementalized away from there. Cowwine, young people are hard to deal with nowadays, and even the elderly can't afford it. Is this the midlife crisis mentioned in the magazines? The tone is still so frivolous and careless. I don't know where I learned the term midlife crisis. And Akainu, who has been standing on the front line of fighting Whitebeard, has been seriously injured at the moment, but still refuses to give up. Whitebeard, Marineford is not a place for you to mess around, die for me. He roared and was about to rush towards Whitebeard, but he didn't want to be overturned again by Whitebeard's Kong Yuncut knife. The blood in the mouth could not stop flowing down the corner of the mouth. Cough. Cough. Finally, Akainu spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with fragments of internal organs from unknown parts. Coincidentally, this scene happened to be captured and filmed by the influence phone Bug. Under the live broadcast of the phone Bug, countless civilians also saw the top power in the world. Is this the strength of the strongest in the world? Sabayati Island, the voice of Hawkins who escaped from Aizen's hand was a little trembling. In another corner not far from him, other hidden supernovas were also shocked by it. For those who fear, there are those who inspire. It's terrible, is this the power of the New World powerhouse? It seems that it is too early for me to go to New World now. Yoroj clasped his hands in front of his chest and recited the Buddha's name. Is this the power of the strong? The supreme power beyond Marine Admiral? One day, sooner or later, I will have it too. Kid suppressed the excitement in his heart, and talked with Keela beside him. And Kira didn't speak, just gave a faint, hum. There is no slight perfunctory in the tone, on the contrary, it is convinced of this. Although Whitebeard's strength is terrifying, he believes that the kid will be able to do it. Because of the shock of Conqueror's haki, many camera positions went on strike. Morgan started the inspection immediately, and turned on the spare video phone Bug that had been prepared in advance. It's amazing. It's amazing. Whitebeard angrily reprimanded Akainu in person, deterring tens of thousands of Marines. The majesty of the world's strongest man, such shots must not be missed, these are all great materials. He was busy operating, and at the same time he did not forget to call for a deputy. Jabra, use your dog's nose to search, where is the lens at 7 o'clock? There are still few spare phone bugs prepared. Jabra, wearing the clothes of a Marine soldier, walked over reluctantly. Then he sniffed his nose, took a lot of effort after locking the position, and found what Morgan's needed. He casually threw it in front of him, and then looked terrified. You bastard, do you know where I found this thing? Behind Whitebeard, it scares the hell out of me. Regarding his fear, Morgan's looked indifferent. He even said, what is there to be afraid of? If there is no danger, how can there be first-hand news? Jabra wanted to scold back, but in the past few days, he knew the other party's personality. For big news, anything can be done. He even sold himself to Master Aizen in order to get the admission ticket for this time. Thinking of this, Rubula suddenly remembered. Where is Aizen-sama? He looked around, looking for Aizen in the ruins of the battlefield. Until the very center of the battlefield, the distance between Whitebeard and the three admirals is only 100 meters away. Aizen stood quietly among them, looking up to the sky. Casualties were also minimized after Whitebeard conquerors hockey-stunned a large number of fighters. Similarly, the soul power he could absorb also showed a precipitous decline. If before there was a spring of energy converging towards him and Hogyoku, now it is just a babbling stream. It's not even enough to get between the teeth. Did you notice it? Aizen tilted his upturned head slightly, looking in Whitebeard's direction. Then he murmured, but you found out too late, the current soul is enough to complete the fusion of Hogyoku. With the fusion of Hogyoku, Reiatsu within Aizen also reached its peak. At this moment, Jin will face a major choice. That is his evolution, what kind of path is he going to take? The existence of Hogyoku itself is not limited to the power of Shinigami and Hollow. It's not as simple as merging and evolving these two forces. It is an existence comparable to a wishing machine. It is the ability to absorb the thoughts of people around you and realize their wishes. So he doesn't need to think like the original, he must combine Shinigami with virtual power, and break through to another level after reaching the apex. He can choose another path according to his own wishes, and let Hogyoku evolve in that direction. Aizen held up the Kyoka Suigetsu in his hand and looked at it carefully. Since you are based on my soul, then completely become a part of me. Compared to completely abandoning Kyoka Suigetsu's ability with great strength, Aizen at this time hopes to completely integrate Kyoka Suigetsu like Arrancar's returning blade. Knife and man are combined, completely mastering the ability of complete hypnosis with its own existence. And push its ability to a higher apex. At this moment, Hogyoku seemed to have sensed his decision, and began to transform power little by little. Strands of white bone began to flow out from his 5 sense organs, gradually wrapping his body. It's like silk chrysalis. Also at the same time as this process is going on. On the other side of the sea very close to Marineford, huge waves were churning. Whitebeard's angry blow just now not only caused great damage to Marineford's island, but also had a great impact on the nearby sea areas. Luffy and the others, who were approaching on a warship, were still talking just now. Looking back, I saw the huge wave up to 100 meters behind me. To die. Buggy was so frightened that he didn't know how many pieces he split into pieces, and his feet ran around on the boat. Finally hid behind Rayleigh. Deputy Captain, help. Rayleigh ignored him, but said with solemn eyes, this weird weather will not appear in the first half of the Grand Line, it seems to be the work of that guy in Newgate. Deputy Captain, don't talk about it, you'd better draw your sword and kill it. Buggy didn't want to listen to Rayleigh's nagging, and kept urging him to do it quickly. And hearing what he said about Zoro was reminiscing about what he had just said. Then he looked at Rayleigh with burning eyes. Cut off the tsunami. Can it really be done? Although he had seen Hawkeye's attack before, he was still too weak at that time, he couldn't see through the height of Hawkeye, and he also couldn't understand the strength of the top swordsman in the sea. He has a great interest in what Buggy said about the chopping tsunami. He even forgot about the danger he was facing now. Rayleigh glanced at him and sighed. If it's this way, of course, but. He looks around. Everyone followed his gaze and realized that they were already surrounded by the tsunami. And the tsunami surrounded on all sides also brought back bad memories for Buggy. Damn it, I don't want to experience the tsunami during the Battle of Edver again. When the Luogia pirates fought against the Golden Lion pirates, they encountered a terrible tsunami. The Golden Lion pirate group was almost wiped out, and even Golden Lion himself had a rudder inserted in his head, which became useless. It can be seen that in the face of this terrifying nature, even the world's top former must remain in awe. Not to mention he's Buggy. Rayleigh sighed, and said with some nerve-wracking, Buggy, calm down. At times like this, of course we have to do our best. As he spoke, he drew out his saber and slashed towards the tsunami. The powerful slash went towards the sea. Seeing him make a move, all the people who killed him also resorted to their own special moves. Death Wink, Murloc Karate Seikisui, Sha Lan. Everyone shot with all their strength, which greatly reduced the power of the tsunami. But even so, he still couldn't resist Yu Wei. The continuous impact of the water still lifted the warship into the sky. Hurry up, everyone. Above the sky, I don't know who shouted such a sentence. What followed was a momentary sense of weightlessness, and then a rapid fall. Bodge. The mournful cries echoed over Marineford. Immediately attracted everyone's attention. At this moment, almost everyone on the battlefield raised their heads and looked towards the sky. Then we saw a group of guys in prison clothes fall, the most prominent and most notable of which was Pluton Rayleigh, as well as Jinbei and Crocodile. The rest is Ivan the Shemale King. They are gone. In order to protect the falling companions, Luffy quickly stretched out his arms to hold Zoro and the others in his arms, preparing to inflate his body at the moment of landing, and protect everyone with the buffer force. And in the process of falling, he also saw Ace, who was still kneeling on the execution platform. When it was confirmed that he was fine, a happy smile appeared on the whole face. Shout out, Ace. This voice also instantly attracted the attention of Ace and Garp. Luffy. The two were stunned for a moment, never expecting him to appear here. And Sengoku was also attracted by it. At this time, he didn't care about Garp's feelings anymore, and grabbed his collar. Asshole, every time, can't your family live in peace? After speaking, he left Garp behind, took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. I won't hold back, Garp. Garp grimaced, but nodded anyway. The scene of the arrival of Luffy and others spread throughout the world along with the live broadcast. Some civilians in front of the image couldn't help but worry. Through the images of that lens, they saw many faces that they had seen on the reward order in the past. All of them are pirates and wanted criminals. Now that the Whitebeard pirates are fighting so fiercely with Marine, and the pirates suddenly have so many helpers, can Marine really do it? Yeah, isn't that white-haired old man wearing glasses the vice captain of One Piece who was arrested by Aizen Vice Admiral earlier in the day? He must be a very powerful person. It's really worrying, compared with the worry and despair of the common people. Those pirates were so excited that naval headquarters fell, nothing could make them happier than this. Captain, if this group of Marines are wiped out, then we won't have to worry about being chased by dogs when we rob treasure in the future, right? Ha ha ha. Being chased by dogs, what you said is too good. That's right, they are dogs. The captain laughed loudly, and then said viciously, not only is it a dog, but it's also a mangy dog with a sharp nose that can't be shaken off. It is not difficult to see from his tone that he was hunted down by Marine and suffered a lot. On Sabayati Island, those people who are also supernovas with Luffy are also very surprised by Luffy's appearance. Drake said in a deep voice, what a daring fellow. But another supernova showed unwillingness to this. Kid curled his lips and said, damn it, this Straw Hat Kid actually went to participate. If I had known I would have gone too. Kira didn't speak. It's true that he has confidence in Kid, but it doesn't mean he's out of his mind. If the current Kid gets involved in this war in 3.9, it will be no different from courting death. The same opinion, Yi is his opinion of Luffy. It is simply courting death. It's a pity that he doesn't know Luffy's background, otherwise he might not be so naive. Of course, it won't be long before he will know. Or it's not just him who knows. After landing, Luffy hurriedly ran towards Ace. But before he ran a few steps, Aokiji Admiral, who had met once, stood in front of him. This is not the place for little pirates like you to come. Remember what I said last time. The favor has already been paid, and if I meet him again, I will die. As he spoke, Aokiji looked at Robin behind Luffy. He said with a slightly mocking tone, Allah. Did you bring her too? That would be really great. As soon as the words fell, a ice arrow came out of his hand and pierced Luffy. Luffy had no time to dodge, and when he was about to be attacked, Redao Sand Blade flew to block the blow for him. He looked along the track, and it was Crocodile. Sensing Luffy's gaze, Crocodile was obviously a little upset, took a sip of his cigar and said impatiently, I'm just fulfilling the agreement. Thank you. He. After a simple thank you, Luffy moved on. Aokiji was stopped by Crocodile. Has Nico Robin's former boss teamed up with the current boss? Surprise. Aokiji stared at Crocodile, and a skate was condensed in his hand while talking. Crocodile, standing in front of him, ignored him. It's just a small salon roll rolled up in the palm of the hand, as if to shoot at any time. And not far from their confrontation, Robin, who was an old acquaintance with both of them, asked Aokiji. Where's Aizen? Where is he? Chapter 97 Luffy. Aizen is not a good person. Why don't you believe it? Advertise here. Where's Aizen? Where is he? Facing Robin's questioning, Aokiji scratched his head with a sigh. To say that the last thing he wanted in his heart was to see Robin in this kind of place. It's too dangerous here, people are dying every minute. He wanted to say, it's too dangerous here, you'd better take care of yourself. But in his capacity, there is really no position to say such a thing. Rather than that, let her go to Aizen. As a childhood playmate, I will definitely not hurt her. I thought so in my heart. Aokiji looked around the battlefield. After finding no trace of Aizen, I could only regretfully say, Brother Aizen. I don't know. The battle was too fierce, maybe he was injured and taken away for treatment. Robin was subconsciously worried when he heard him say he was injured. But he immediately realized that with all the methods and intelligence displayed by Aizen, how could he be defeated so easily? He must be hiding somewhere and spying here, as if controlling everything in the palm of his hand. Use his terrifying hypnosis abilities. No, you must stop him. Seeing that Aokiji couldn't get an answer, Robin turned around and ran in other directions, trying to find traces of Aizen. So where would Aokiji let her go? If you fight against yourself, you can throw water around her, but if you run around on this battlefield, what is the difference between her strength and courting death? But before he could make a move, Crocodile stood in his way. Kuzan, don't be so defiant. I was right in front of him, as if I was ignored. This made Crocodile very unhappy. With the wave of the arm, the sandstorm also came out, instantly magnified hundreds of times, forming a sandstorm tornado and attacking Aokiji. Seeing the surrounding fighters suffer, Aokiji had no choice but to take back his pursuit. And while Robin was walking through the battlefield, the other partners also met their opponents. Unsurprisingly, Zoro ran into Hawkeye again. Rather than saying that he met him, it would be better to say that the eagle eye that had noticed him had found him long ago. Looking at the man not far in front of him, Zoro suddenly felt pressured. He doesn't think that he has the strength to defeat Hawkeye, but 06 knows this, in order to help Luffy share the pressure. Even if he could only hold this man back for a second, he would never hesitate. We meet again. The world's #1 swordsman. The three swords were unsheathed, and they assumed a fighting posture. Hawkeye stared at him, and said, I thought you had at least some qualifications, but I didn't expect you to be such an arrogant person. As he spoke, his piercing gaze swept over Zoro's three sabers. How dare you come here with such a weak posture? Is it because you have newly obtained a famous sword to give you confidence? Since East Blue's first sighting, Hawkeye chopped Zoro's two sabers into pieces. In addition to the words of Hidao, Zoro's saber is also changed again and again. Now he has two famous knives. Demon Sword 3rd Generation Onoduru. Black Sword Autumn Water. Zoro was already under a lot of pressure in the face of Hawkeye, and now he was so slighted, he should be angry. But he put on an attacking posture, grinning and said, there is a captain who wants to be the pirate king, so why not be a little arrogant as his crew? Hawkeye couldn't help being moved by this answer, and looked back at Luffy who was running towards the execution platform on the other side. Then he started to look at the boy in front of him again. This is true of the two encounters, knowing that they are invincible but still facing difficulties. The first time was a challenge to the strong, for one's own goal. But this time, it is to protect the partner's goal. The black knife Yi at the back slowly unsheathed, and Hawkeye's eyes became serious. Boy, it seems that the journey during this period has indeed made you grow a lot, but the way of swordsmanship is not something that can be strengthened by just saying some pretty words. The whole body's momentum was released, and the ground under his feet began to shatter. The sword energy condensed on the black knife. Let me test it. What you have is confidence, or arrogance. As he said that, he swung out a flying slash without any warning or fancy movements. It's like a normal blow. But facing it, Zoro raised his spirits 100%. Three swords style 108 vexed phoenixes. With Hawkeye deliberately staying behind, Zoro's attack, although difficult, was cancelled out by his slash. Zoro knew he was letting the water go, but he still insisted. The battle between the two has just begun. The same is true of most of the other people who came together, on the way Luffy went forward. Frankie and Brook blocked Smoker. Jinbei blocked the Ghost Spider. Except for the guy Sanji who fell off the chain and was tied up by Hina's fence, even everyone was escorting Luffy. Whitebeard saw this scene from a distance, and asked Marco through the gap of the battle, who is that brat? Straw Hat Luffy is Ace's younger brother. Gu la la la, since he is Ace's younger brother, he is our family. Help him rescue Ace with all our strength. Knowing Ace's life experience a long time ago, he naturally knows who raised him, and also knows that his younger brother is Garp's grandson. If it was him who shot, maybe he could really save Ace. Whitebeard gave the order while dealing with the siege of Akainu, Zephyr and all the Marines at the same time. Although Marco has shown a little fatigue at this time, he still conveyed the order as he did. Everyone, help brother Ace. And Kizaru, who has been fighting with him, hovered not far in front of him, pulled out his ears and said, I can't pretend that I didn't see that. As he spoke, he pointed his finger in the direction of Luffy, then turned it slightly away, and aimed at a place not far from his side. A dazzling laser shot out, attacking at a high speed. But in the blink of an eye, a figure suddenly appeared. Rayleigh slashed at the laser with a sword to scatter it, looked up at Kizaru and said with a smile, as Admiral, don't embarrass young people. Kizaru elementally escaped Marco's blow, and then spread his hands helplessly. Not only do you have to be beaten by young people, but you also have to be taught by old people. It may be too difficult to take advantage of it. Speaking of which, the lazy look on his whole body subsided, and he said with a serious face, Marine Admiral is not here to listen to you pirates talking. Amazon Cloud Sword. The photons in the hand condensed and converged into a sword shape, and attacked Rayleigh. Seeing that the execution platform is getting closer and closer, Luffy shouted excitedly, Ace. When Ace was moved on the execution platform, he was more worried. It's too dangerous here, Luffy shouldn't be here. Not to mention taking risks for him, if something really happened to Luffy, then he, the big brother, would really be a pity to die. Luffy, Get out of here, this is not where you should be. But his warning had no effect, and Luffy kept going as if he had made up his mind. Shouting while running. Ace, wait for me, I will definitely save you. Sengoku watched the stalemate on the battlefield, and those masters helped Luffy one after another. Think about the situation that Aizen reported to him in the office at that time. The kid who can make Pluten Rayleigh sacrifice his life to rescue is Garp's grandson. I don't know what secrets are hidden. But in the future, I am afraid that it will also be a terrible existence that will bring huge disasters to the world. Straw Hat Luffy, you might be a bad guy too. Sengoku picked up the amplifier, leaned to his mouth, and told Luffy's life experience. This man is the sworn brother that Ace grew up with since he was a child, and the son of the revolutionary dragon. As his voice fell, countless people's eyes focused on Luffy. Revolutionary dragon. The most evil guy in the world. We can't let him leave alive, come on. In a corner of the battlefield, the Empress Boa Hancock, who has not yet made a move, couldn't help but look at Luffy a few more times after hearing the battle. Worthy of the guy who dared to beat celestial dragons. Countless marine fighters who let their fighting power rush towards Luffy. And his life experience was also spread to the whole world with the exposure of Sengoku. At this time, Morgans felt that he was too busy, too much. There are more than a dozen phone bugs in front of him, connecting the branches of economic news agencies around the world. Quick, spread the news to the whole world as quickly as possible. Where is the editor-in-chief of the West Blue Division dead? He was busy urging the latest press release. At this time, Luffy, who is the center of the topic, has brought him great danger while receiving a lot of attention. Straw Hat Boy, die. A Marine major rushed forward with a knife and slashed at him. Luffy is very anxious at the moment, only thinking about saving Ace, and has no time to talk to him at all. Get out of the way. Rubber machine gun quickly resolved the opponent and moved on. And just as he was about to rush to the fortress, the Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel was about to attack him. A familiar figure appeared ahead of time, blocking his front. Luffy, this is not the place for you, get out of here. Yuta's face was slightly pale, and he looked very tired. Apparently, the forbidden technique that used the space transfer cost her a lot. But in order to persuade Luffy not to take risks, she still stands here. Luffy was a little happy to see Yuta at first, but when she heard that even she wanted to stop him, she said displeased Yuta, get out of the way. Seeing him not stopping, Yuta could only draw his sword to face him. Luffy, I'm not going to get out of the way, you have to get out of here now. Facing her nagging resistance, Luffy was a little annoyed. He yelled. You should have left, this is all a conspiracy by that bastard Marine Aizen. Hearing his words, Yuta's heart trembled, and the sword in his hand tightened involuntarily. The whole body exudes a dangerous breath. What nonsense are you talking about? She is very clear about what Aizen is going to do, and she also knows that Ace will be put on the execution platform because of his own hand. But is the blood of One Piece, that guy who has committed the most crimes? What is there to be sorry for? Conspiracy. Even if it is a conspiracy, it is also a conspiracy to suppress the arrogance of the evil pirates, and it is also a conspiracy to let civilians all over the world live a happy and stable life. Her eyes gradually became dangerous, and the aura on her body began to release. Seeing this, Luffy thought she didn't believe it, and quickly said, it was he who caused Ace to be arrested, and Uncle Rayleigh was arrested in Impel Down. Before he could finish speaking, what responded to him was a crimson slash. If Luffy hadn't dodged in time, he might have been injured. At this time, Luffy realized the seriousness on Yuta's face. And murderous. She looked at Luffy, and said word by word, shouldn't the heir of the pirate prince who swept up this rampant era be killed? Shouldn't the vice captain of One Piece, the bastard pirate who brought pain to the world, be caught? Do you know how many civilians are invaded by pirates every year, and how many families are torn apart by pirates, do you know? She roared at the top of her lungs, tears streaming down her face at some point. And her voice also reverberated over the battlefield where there were constant shouts of killing, which inspired the hearts of countless Marines who insisted on justice. That's right, destroy these nasty pirates. Everything is for justice, kill. A cry from the crowd made Marine soldiers burst out with a strong fighting spirit. Suddenly, the situation turned around. Sengoku looked at Yuta below and couldn't help nodding. The adjutant next to that boy Aizen. What a nice little girl. Hina, Tashigi and others who had a close relationship with Yuta were also encouraged, and Yu Shang's attack was much more aggressive than before. Before the live broadcast all over the world, countless civilians who watched this scene were filled with tears at this moment. I know her, she is the adjutant next to Aizen Vice Admiral, Major Yuta. Woo mortals. Kill 703, kill all these evil pirates. Yes, evil must be punished, and Marine must win. Yuta. Luffy looked at Yuta in surprise. He didn't understand how Yuta, who had always wanted to be a musician on Shanks' ship, hated pirates so much. You must know that Shanks and everyone on board are also pirates. Yuta. I don't know what you have been through these years, but let me tell you, Aizen is not a good person, he has done a lot of bad things. A complete jerk, Luffy said with a serious face. In the distance, Morgans held the impact phone bug in his hand, kept focusing, and then locked onto Luffy. After Sengoku announced his identity, it didn't stop for a moment. Quack quack. I knew that there must be surprises on this guy. And everything that Luffy said just now was broadcast live. In front of the whole world. Beside Morgan's, Jabra frowned. Aren't you afraid of disrupting Lord Aizen's plan by doing this? Quack quack quack. Your lord didn't give me any planned news, my task is to do a good job of this big news from beginning to end, so as to shock the world. Other things have nothing to do with me. Morgan said indifferently, and didn't even look back at Jabra's question. He is busy right now. Sure enough, under the live broadcast under his control, the whole world heard Luffy's live. Then the abuse continued. Does this shameless pirate know what he's talking about? Slandering Aizen Vice Admiral, what does he think? A pirate is a pirate, and you don't forget to trap good people when you are about to die. Major Yuta, kill him. You bastard pirates dare to say that, Aizen Vice Admiral, I will arrest you all when first become a marine. On that unnamed island, Aizen's extreme admirer, Yurid, yelled angrily. Most of the people around were merchants at that time, and they had a very good impression of Aizen. Then he scolded this pirate who didn't know what to do. This scene can be described as passionate, and it is not too much. Contrast that with the impassioned words just said by Major Yuta, the adjutant of Aizen Vice Admiral. Luffy bears the title of one of the supernovas of the evil era, how can anyone believe him? Don't say that Aizen has built an image among the common people for many years. Even in Marine, he also has a lot of supporters. Hina. At this time, you still want to discredit your seniors. Hina is very angry. Devil Fruit launched, and two long black fences stretched out from his hands, piercing straight in Luffy's direction. Pirate awful, dare to slander Aizen Vice Admiral, die. A large number of Marines came to attack Luffy, the number of them surprised even Sengoku. Has this kid's prestige in the army reached this level? Among them, Kizaru and Marco, who have the ability to fly, can feel such a scene most intuitively. Kawaii. He won't really leapfrog to become the next marshal. Chapter 98 Suspicion of Aizen. Irresistible Lafitte. Advertise here. Fooferfer. It looks like your master is in big trouble. When Luffy pinned all the culprits on Aizen's head, Brother Ming, who was fighting over there, gave Moria a smug smile. At this moment, there are wounds all over his body, not only the attack from his own shadow, but also many other different wounds. The battle with Moria gave him the feeling of being besieged by thousands of troops. Not only that, but from time to time there will be attacks from who knows where to sneak up on him. This made Brother Ming extremely annoyed. So when Luffy tried to expose Aizen's true colors, he showed a smug smile. But what he didn't expect was that Moria just showed a mocking smile. Instead of caring about Aizen-sama, you should care about yourself. Celestial Dragons. Moria's ridicule made Brother Ming resentful, but he didn't dare to mess around. Although he hasn't made a full shot yet, he can also feel that Moria is keeping his hand. And looking at his relaxed appearance, there is a high probability that he is not his opponent. Now he almost scolded those bastards from the world government to death in his heart, and he didn't even get the information. He suppressed the anger in his heart. Fooferfer. Your master is really skilled. Aizen can have such prestige in Marine, it is beyond his expectation. Are those idiots Marine really not suspicious at all? No matter how perfect a person is, how can he be truly flawless? And that Straw Hat Kid is really stupid. It is impossible to grasp the evidence, regardless of whether the two things used were done by others. Marine catches pirates, but catches the wrong one. The kid now is so naive and disgusting. Angrily swearing, Ming and Moria continued to fight together. And without knowing it, Luffy, who was scolded by him, was also running around to avoid it at the moment. The counterattack from time to time knocked down a group of Marine fighters who attacked him. While typing, he defended himself. What I said is true, that Aizen has done a lot of bad things in private, and he even used human lives to conduct experiments in Impel Down, turning them into a monster called Shu. As he spoke, his eyes pointed to Moria in the distance. By the way, he's also with that guy named Aizen. Brother Ming, who was fighting Moria, turned his head to avoid his attack, showing a wicked smile. Ah, I was identified. It's really troublesome, so. What are you going to do? Fooferfer. After speaking, he waved his hand and slashed a line. Moria gave a disdainful cut, and didn't bother to bother. So what? The prestige of the adults, only will you trust him? Sure enough, with the previous words as the keynote. It was not easy to be convincing in the first place, coupled with the previous slander that could be called mentally retarded. Everyone fell into anger, and no one believed what Luffy said. Even Hawkeye, who had always had a good impression of Luffy, couldn't help being a little suspicious. He looked at Zoro, whose whole body was soaked in blood and completely turned into a blood man, and asked, "You can do this for your own captain, I approve of you. But your captain, Seepin isn't worth it." Zoro trembled from his body, the loss of a large amount of blood made him look extremely weak. Even so, his hand holding the knife never relaxed at all. Who? Panting heavily, he said firmly to Hawkeye, "My captain is a fool, the kind of fool who is steadfast in his goal, the kind who can't lie." After speaking, he gathered all his strength with great difficulty, and unleashed the strongest blow at the moment. The muscles on both arms continued to swell, and Luong also took more clothes accordingly. 3 sword style 1 Gang Li Luo Gang Li Luo Gang Li Zan. In front of Hawkeye, at this moment, behind Zoro, there seems to be a phantom of an evil ghost. This move can't help but make the world's #1 swordsman sigh. Control your own muscles with the power of rigidity and softness, and enhance the destructive power of sword skills to cultivate your body to this level. You are indeed talented. Hey, Zoro snorted, whether you have talent or not, let's take this trick first. As he said that, his whole body was like a bloody ghost, flying towards Hawkeye. An unremarkable swing of the knife. Zoro was defeated and was knocked out tens of meters. Hit the ground heavily. Boom. Hawkeye swung the knife away from the bloodline on the blade, and sheathed the knife. Hearing the sound of landing, he didn't look back at him. Just when he was about to leave, the extremely weak voice behind him sounded again. I made a mistake, Captain. I lost again. There was endless loneliness in the voice, and it hit Hawkeye's heart directly. He vividly remembered that time in East Blue, when the brat seemed to have promised his captain. I won't lose again in the future. Perhaps Zoro's attitude affected Hawkeye, or maybe it was because of the drinking buddy who lost his left arm, but Hawkeye has a little interest in that Straw Hat kid at the moment. You can make these 2 men bet on you, it seems that you are not a simple man. What you say is true or false, then let me distinguish 10 soils for you. As he spoke, he searched for Aizen's whereabouts on the battlefield. And Empress Hancock also has almost the same idea with him. She who hates celestial dragons also hates Aizen who gets close to celestial dragons. Especially when the person who said those words was Luffy, the good guy who dared to beat up the celestial dragons. It made her feel convinced. Sure enough, nothing good is mixed with celestial dragons. On the other hand, Kizaru, who wrote about Rayleigh and Marco fighting, has also felt the pressure. Hey, isn't it unfair for the 2 of you to hit me together? Isn't your purpose to slow me down and help the Straw Hat Boy to get ace? That wretched look made Rayleigh wonder for a while whether he was the one who said, Marine Admiral doesn't listen to pirates. But Rayleigh still joked. If you are willing to back down, that would be the best. Kizaru waved his hands, showing a helpless look. He pointed to the direction of the execution platform behind him. That's not allowed. The marshal will be angry, and it will be bad to deduct wages then. Really? Then there is no way. Rayleigh hadn't expected him to give up, so he wasn't disappointed. Just responded flatly. But suddenly he changed the subject and asked, how much do you know about that Aizen? Hearing his question, Kizaru was obviously stunned for a moment, and was almost kicked by Marco. Huh, it's really dangerous. I was almost defeated. Kizaru looked in the direction of Marco with a look of rejoicing. Unexpectedly, after he missed a hit, his castration remained undiminished, and he flew away from here directly. Look at the direction to support Luffy. Thinking about it, I also think what Kizaru said just now is reasonable. Marco left quickly, leaving only a series of voices that faded away. Senior Rayleigh, I will leave Kizaru to you. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, leave it to me. Rayleigh said relaxedly, then turned to face Kizaru. Let's continue the topic just now. How much do you know about Aizen? Facing his questioning one after another. Even Kizaru, who was out of tune, realized something and became serious. Brown sunglasses reflected in the sunlight. He said in a deep voice. Ah. Mr. Vice Captain seems to be very interested in our Aizen Vice Admiral, why don't you tell me why? The swords in the 2 hands slashed back and forth, but it didn't affect their communication at all. Rayleigh blocked the sword of the yellow monkey. He said. What Luffy just said is true. Ace was most likely handed over to Marine under the arrangement of Aizen. The purpose was to provoke the Whitebeard pirates to fight Marine. Then what good does he do? Kizaru continued the attack, and the conversation continued. You have to know that with his prestige in Marine, coupled with the relationship between celestial dragons and world government, I wouldn't be surprised to say that he will be the next marshal. Rayleigh couldn't answer his question. But he still said honestly, we don't know about this. So there's no proof. There is no evidence, but it is true that he conducted evil human experiments in Impel Down, and we have evidence for this. Who? Rayleigh pointed to the guy on the ship who blew himself up as a test subject at the time. The white substance on his chest is the evidence, you will understand after reading it. Really? Kizaru pushed Rayleigh away hard, a disc condensed on the palm of his hand. 8-foot mirror. With the release of the moves, Kizaru's whole body turned into elements and shuttled across the chaotic battlefield. Soon behind the witness Rayleigh was referring to. The man found a knife from nowhere and was fighting with the Marine soldiers. He cut down the Marine in front of him with a single knife, excitedly venting the depression of being imprisoned for many years. Ha ha ha, lousy hacked Marines like you to death. Go to hell, go to hell, go to hell. That excitement has not had time to pass. Then I heard a lazy voice coming from behind my ears. Kawai, this old man is also a Marine, are you going to kill this old man? Then he noticed a tall black shadow blocking his head. What? When he turned around, he saw Kizaru's 3-meter-tall figure towering behind him. See, Marine Admiral. Grunt. The man swallowed his saliva, and the whole person had already stayed in place. At this moment, he only felt that his body was going weak, and he completely lost the crazy appearance just now. Not to mention fighting back. Seeing him like this, Kizaru didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, and glanced at the marine soldier who was chopped down by him. Listen to that Rayleigh guy, are you the witness who can prove that Aizen Vice Admiral did human experiments? No, I didn't. The man denied it, but he was already cursing Rayleigh frantically in his heart. Actually betrayed him to Marine Admiral. What about the right wrist of One Piece? What a despicable villain. Kizaru knew he was lying just by looking at his guilty look. Reaching out and tearing off his clothes, he saw the place on his chest that was blocked by white bone. In the circular cavity, the white material clings to the edge like tentacles. So it's this one. Having got the result he wanted, Kizaru raised his hand and shot the man's head with a laser. Boom. With a loud explosion, he turned and left. At this time, the expression on his face seemed a little dull, but his heart became more and more stunned. No wonder the attack on the celestial dragons. The team's monsters have been searching for so many years and have not been found again, so it is like this. Kizaru is the strongest marine and one of the 3 admirals in marine. His every move is also constantly being watched. He'd just shrugged off Rayleigh and instead ran to kill an unremarkable prisoner who had escaped from Impel Down. How could this weird behavior escape Sengoku's eyes? Seeing Rayleigh rushing all the way to Luffy after losing the restraint of the Oracle. It shook Yuta back and cleared all obstacles. Sengoku shouted angrily. Pelusalino, what are you doing? Hearing the marshal's call, Kizaru suppressed the thoughts in his heart, and was about to rush to elementalization. I found a powerful breath approaching me. Glitter Kid, since you're here, don't leave. The power of shock fruit exploded on his side, knocking him flying violently. Zephyr was late, drawing Whitebeard's fire again. At the same time, he did not forget to teach Kizaru a lesson. I said earlier that you are too dependent on devil fruit, otherwise how could you not notice his approach? Gu Lala, what a strict teacher. Zephyr. Whitebeard had multiple serious injuries by this time. But he is still fighting with his body strong, he hasn't rescued his stupid son yet. Zephyr was not much better at this time, with wounds all over his body. Even armament hockey is much dimmer. Strictness can improve the ability to survive, and kindness like you can't exchange for the lives of your sons. Whitebeard scoffed at his opinion. Lousy as Whitebeard, no one can take away my lovely sons. He swung his knife and slashed at Zephyr. But he didn't notice Akainu's sneak attack behind him, and the guaranteed red magma arm pierced his chest. Akainu's dull voice came. Is it because the pirates burned and killed for too long and indulged in the happy family's pretend play? You bastard pirates, dying here is the best reward for countless families at sea. Great eruption. Lava explodes inside Whitebeard. The huge damage caused the strongest man in the world to bend over and squat on the ground. Seeing his decline, countless people on the battlefield exclaimed. The marine soldiers were excited. Come on. We're going to win. Kill Whitebeard, Holy One. The bullet cannon kept leaning towards Whitebeard's body. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates called out worriedly. Daddy. They rushed around Whitebeard and blocked the attack for him. In the second half of the battlefield, where Zhao was knocked into the air by Kizaru, a huge figure also caused a burst of exclamation. Okay, big, what the hell is that? He is San Juan Wolf, that gigantic warship. The tall figure was revealed, and it turned out to be a humanoid monster wearing a prison uniform. Its size is even bigger than the previous little Aussie. Even surpassed some islands. Oh, I've been found. He whispered. But because his figure is too big, even though he said it in a low voice, it still sounded like a thunderbolt to the listener's ears. With his exposure, the Blackbeard gang who had been hidden for a long time finally appeared. Thief ha ha ha, finally it's our turn to play. Teach stood on the wall of the fort, looking down. When looking at the seriously injured Whitebeard, he still did not forget to greet. Long time no see, Dad. It's just that he was stopped by Whitebeard as soon as he said it. Whitebeard leaned on Kong Yunchi, stood up slowly, and glared in Teach's direction. Teach, on my boat, you are the only one who is not qualified to call me daddy. Long lived in Whitebeard's shadow, even now defecting to stand on his own. Even now that Whitebeard was badly injured, Teach was terrified at his roar. Seeing that he didn't speak, the evil king next to him couldn't help making fun of him. Captain, are you afraid? If so, why don't you give me the captain's position? Stop saying such stupid things, idiot. Teach reprimanded the evil king. It seems that I felt humiliated by my timidity just now. Facing Whitebeard's scolding, he sneered and said. In that case, then. Long time no see Whitebeard, let me introduce myself. I'm Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach. His voice is confident and bold. He just didn't notice Lafitte's trembling body behind him. Soon. It's about to start. Chapter 99 Lafayette shot, miscalculated Blackbeard. Advertise here. I'm Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach. Teach solemnly introduced himself. It can't help but arouse the anger of countless members of the Whitebeard pirates, and it also makes Sengoku look ugly. Blackbeard, what are you planning? His voice spread across the battlefield, challenging Teach. But Teach didn't care about his accusation. Spreading his hands, he signaled everyone to look at the companion beside him. Haha, thief, can't you see this? Sengoku. I have to say that Impel Down is really a good place. I recruited a lot of capable subordinates there. That arrogant attitude is simply putting the face of all marine and world government on the ground. Even the 5 elders, who were watching the live broadcast at this time, couldn't help being silent for a moment. His name is Marshal D. Teach, another D guy. Let's eliminate this dangerous existence as soon as possible. Yeah, not every D guy is like that Garp guy. The pressure on Marineford is getting bigger and bigger. Do you want to send troops to support it? Wait and see, compared to Marineford, the Holy Land is the most important. Ace kneeling on the execution platform at this time. Looking in the direction of Teach 037, his eyes were full of hatred. Struggling to get up, but was pinned down to the ground by the criminal officer. Be honest with me, no matter what happens to him, your ending will not change. Sengoku said coldly. Then he turned his head to look at Teach, wanting to see what he was planning. Under his gaze, Teach walked towards Whitebeard with everyone behind him. Akainu was about to make a move, but was stopped by Zephyr beside him. Don't worry, the two of them are in the same situation, it's better to let them fight to the death. Zephyr's words surprised Akainu. In his memory, the teacher in front of him was not someone who would say such things. Seemingly feeling Akainu's surprised gaze, Zephyr said with a light smile, people always grow up in hardships. After suffering such a big loss, it's not surprising that I would change, right? This made sense, and Akainu, who knew what had happened to him, had no doubts about it. Nodding his head, he accepted the teacher's statement. Even at this moment, an unprecedented recognition of this teacher arises. Even in the training camp when I was young, I never had the recognition. To kill pirates is to use any means. There is no morality to advance with pirates and these bastards. Since that's the case, please keep an eye on the teacher here, I have other things to do. Zephyr looked in the direction of Akainu's gaze, and saw the back of Luffy in the straw hat. Instantly understood what he meant. Grinning. Go ahead and do it, I support you. Thank you teacher. After getting Zephyr's answer, Song Yonjin left immediately. Go after Luffy in the direction of the past. In the distance, Aokiji saw Akainu's actions inadvertently, and couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed, and reminded helplessly, "Allah, it seems that the Straw Hat Boy is in trouble again." Although what he said was obvious enough, Crocodile ignored his hints. His problem is free for others to solve, as long as I hold you back, I will repay his favor. Hearing his words, Aokiji was helpless. You can only shoot with all your strength, trying to defeat him in the shortest time. Frozen time capsule. He pressed his hands on the ground, and an ice path full of spikes emerged from the ground, attacking the sand crocodile all the way. When it dodges, cast it again. Storm pheasant's mouth. The cold air gathered in the arm, and an ice bird came out of his hand, freezing everywhere he went. Crocodile was accidentally frozen in place. Leaving him alone, Aokiji dodges towards Luffy. Hoping to stop Akainu before he does. Otherwise, when it came time for Akainu to make a move, he would really have the idea of killing the Straw Hat Boy. At that time, 2 grandchildren will be lost one after another. Mr. Garp is probably going crazy. At this time, Whitebeard and Teach have already exchanged hands. Although AGDC has suffered serious injuries, Whitebeard's title of world's strongest man is not for nothing. Teach. He roared angrily, and punched Teach with all his strength. But I saw the black Uzumaki in Teach's hand. Surprisingly, he wrapped up the power of his shock fruit, and then gradually digested it. Thieves ha ha ha. Whitebeard, this is the ability of my dark fruit. It can restrain the power of all devil fruits. It is the most vicious devil fruit in the world. Teach laughed out loud when he saw Whitebeard's attack being absorbed by him. I was extremely satisfied in my heart, a feeling of being a grandson for many years, and finally feeling elated. But Whitebeard in front of him was full of sadness. Is this the power you seek after killing Sage and betraying your family? There were tears in Whitebeard's eyes at the moment. The fist is also getting tighter and tighter. Looking at Teach's smug expression, the anger in my heart has reached its peak. Teach, you betrayed your family. A full blow hit again, this time he did not use the ability of shock fruit. A punch landed Teach in the face. With the huge power and the triple damage increase, Teach felt unprecedented pain on his proud face. Ah, it hurts, it hurts. He covered his face and rolled on the ground, screaming. But Whitebeard's attack didn't wait for him any longer, and this time he used shock fruit's power to attack with all his strength. A punch landed on Teach's body. He vomited blood on the spot. Puff. Cough cough cough. Father, spare my father. Teach just felt that he was going to die at the moment, and the pain of being torn apart made him unbearable. He couldn't help begging for mercy. And it was this effort of begging for mercy that made him seize the opportunity. Pulling the trigger hits Whitebeard in the body. The attack stopped, and Whitebeard stayed where he was and didn't move. Teach was surprised at first, and only when he realized that Whitebeard was exhausted, he let out his triumphant and arrogant laugh. Thief ha ha ha. Dead. You are finally dead. Ha ha ha. He climbed up from the ground in embarrassment, and said to his subordinates behind him, proceed as planned. 17. In the horrified eyes of everyone who has not yet reacted. The crew behind Teach pulled together a huge black cloth, which enveloped Whitebeard's body. Finally, it's finally coming true. The strongest Paramesha devil fruit, today you are mine. Just when Teach thought he was about to succeed. Mutations abound. Lafitte, who was behind him, brazenly drew out his sword, piercing through his heart in an instant. What? He looked at his chest in disbelief, turned his head with difficulty, and looked at Lafitte, who was behind him, with a strange smile. Lafitte, you. Captain, I'm sorry. Your plan seems to be going to fail. Chapter 100. Aizen appears, suspicion points at her. Advertise here. Captain, I'm sorry. Your plan seems to be in vain. Lafitte had a weird smile on his face. The eyes looking at Teach were full of violent killing intent. And his sudden attack was unexpected by Teach. It can be said that Lafitte contributed a lot to this journey, and was even designated by himself as the future deputy captain. Now when he was about to finish his work, he actually rebelled. He can't accept it. Especially after the hand covering the wound felt the broken heart, the whole person fell into hysterical rage. Asshole, Lafitte, why are you doing this? You ruined Laozi's dream. Dormant for decades, I thought this life would pass away with nothing to do. Finally got the pity of God and obtained dark fruit. Now seeing that shock fruit's ability is about to be obtained, success is in sight, but he is betrayed by his subordinates. Facing his reprimand, Lafitte was indifferent. The body is leaning on crutches, one foot is hanging in the air funny, one hand is stroking the top hat and tilting the head, saying, is the captain's dream just a trivial fruit? That's really disappointing. Quote. Asshole, do you know what you're talking about? A fierce light appeared in Teach's eyes, and the murderous look locked on Lashy's body. The look of a shot at any time. Not only him, but also Poison Q, Van Oka, Badgers behind him, including the villainous King, Wine Barrel and others who joined later. On the previous ship, the new Captain Teach described a perfect future for them. Now the dream has just begun to be dreamed, and it is extinguished. Or because a traitor appeared, they were naturally angry. Facing their murderous eyes, Lafitte was still calm and composed. How to say? He slightly raised his head and looked towards the sky, showing a thoughtful look. Then he smiled at Teach and said, I thought you were a hero before, but later I found out that you are not. A true hero is someone who doesn't stick to means, does his best to achieve his goal, and is always moving forward. He won't be a gambler who puts all his fate on a devil fruit and waits until he gets it. Lafitte didn't care about Teach's ugly face at the moment, and continued talking. In my opinion, you are just a speculator who made a good luck bet. You don't even have a conqueror's hockey. It's really hard to believe that following you will have any future. As he spoke, he spread out his hands and sighed with a regretful expression. And this greatly stimulated Teach's heart. What does this vicious traitor know? He didn't even know how many days and nights, countless fantasies, and countless plans he had endured for this day. They had already reached this point, yet they were all destroyed in the hands of this traitor. You shameless traitor, die for me. Dark water. Unable to bear the anger any longer, Teach finally made a move. The pitch-black palm grabbed Lafitte's direction, and a strong suction force was issued, attracting Lafitte's body. Seeing him make a move, the subordinates around him all launched an attack in one go. Even though their captain has lost the ability to get the shock fruit now, the dark fruit is still there, and they can still get what they want through his ability. So it's not enough to rebel. Watching the body gradually leaning towards Teach, dozens of attacks hit him in front of him. Lafitte did not rush, letting his body approach. He even used the gap to push back the top hat that was almost blown away. He raised his hand to caress the handle of the crutch, and slowly drew the sword out of its sheath, with the same fierce light in his eyes. Yeah, why should a traitor embarrass a traitor? This sentence was heard by Zephyr, who had been standing there watching the battle. He was taken aback for a moment, and then smiled. He nodded in agreement. Yes, since they are all traitors, what right does the former have to accuse the latter? In fact, the moment he appeared on Lafitte, he had already noticed Aaroncar's aura on him. But only when he is a pawn arranged by Aizen. I didn't expect this guy to make a move so quickly, it's really unexpected. But facing the siege of so many people, should he act more secretly? Just when he was hesitating, the Lafitte sword over there was unsheathed. Come on, Angel of Bliss. With a low growl, the powerful Reiatsu burst out. Wrapping his body, it swept across a corner of the battlefield. By the way, the attack by Teach et al. Whether it's a coincidence or not, his Reiatsu color closely resembles Moria's. They are all dark purple in color, but Moria's is more black and darker. When Reiatsu dispersed, the image of Lafitte returning to the sword was also exposed in front of everyone. You are Lafitte. Teach looked at him with a pair of eyes in disbelief, looking up and down. Based on his understanding of Lafitte's fruit ability is just the pigeon form of the most common zone bird fruit. It is simply impossible for such a huge change to occur. Has he lied before? His fruit ability is not of ordinary species at all, but of ancient species, or even phantom beast. At this moment, Teach has countless doubts in his heart, but he can't stop the anger. Rage of shattered dreams, betrayed anger, and the anger of being cheated by this guy. Go to hell, Lafitte. Teach roared angrily. Dark cave. A large piece of dark matter appeared under his feet, covering the ground. It produces a strong suction force, which makes it difficult to escape like a mud swamp. Facing his move, Lafitte disappeared in place with a whirl. Not only broke through the siege of the Blackbeard pirates, but also went around behind them. Sustained underfoot with Reiatsu, suspended in midair. Captain, don't be so angry if you have a broken heart, or you will fall ill. Relying on his own ability, Lafitte was able to handle their attacks with ease. Even if you get hurt every now and then. But relying on the Arrancar steel skin and super speed recovery, it barely survived. And not far from their battle, Whitebeard's body still stood there. At this time on the execution platform, Ace was already weeping. The whole person fell on the ground and buried his head deeply. It's all because of him. It's all because of him who ran out of the boat without authorization, so he gave Teach a chance. It was he who killed Dad, and also caused so many casualties for everyone. Sorry, it's all my fault. He kept blaming himself, which made Garp's heart ache. Seeing Whitebeard's death, Sengoku on the side finally showed joy from his frown. Dead, he finally died. Although there were many twists and turns, he finally succeeded in taking his head. He thought this way, and then issued an order to the whole army, catch the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates with all your strength, and catch them all in Marineford, the land of justice. Whoosh. The Marines who were still fighting were very excited and mustered all their energy. The Marine soldiers with high morale are full of pride at this moment, and they are about to wipe out these pirates. Kill, wipe them all out. Die here, Whitebeard pirates. Daddy. Marco is blasted to the ground by a blow from a Kainu. The countless wounds on his body didn't have time to heal, and he stared in Whitebeard's direction. Tears couldn't stop streaming down my eyes. The rest of the captains were also attacked and besieged one after another under the restless mood. Injuries vary. Seeing that things are going well, Sengoku also heaves a sigh of relief. Although it always felt like something wasn't quite right, now that Whitebeard is dead. Then everything will be settled. Now that things have come to an end, you won't have any extravagant hopes anymore, right? Sengoku's deep voice reached Ace's ear, but there was no response. But that doesn't matter anymore. That's all. He summoned 2 executioners to stand beside Ace, one on the left and one on the right. It may be the greatest kindness to you to be able to go on the road with the person you love the most. Execution. Sengoku shouted these words in the eyes of the whole world and in the anticipation of countless people. Watching the blade in the executioner's hand getting closer and closer to Ace. At this moment, all the concerned people held their breath. Luffy came under the execution platform at this time. Stop, he hissed. At this critical moment, Conqueror's Haki was released passively. The indiscriminate release shocked all the weak-willed people around and passed out. Including the 2 execution officers. And his performance also made more people notice him. Hawkeye looked at his back and murmured, "This guy is really not simple, so is everything he said true." Aokiji was also unable to escape under the entanglement of Crocodile and Jinbei, looking at Luffy out of the corner of his eye. It's dangerous to show such aptitude. While he was talking, Akainu, who was being dragged by Rayleigh on the other side, did as he said. The attack power increased greatly, trying to force Rayleigh back. That pirate is also the seed of evil in the future, we must destroy him here. The almost berserk attack even Rayleigh felt extremely tricky for a while. Looking at the gradually hot saber in his hand, he couldn't help saying in a low voice, "This guy is really hard to deal with, it's better to talk to Kizaru." The battle is still going on, but the Kizaru in his mouth has quietly come to Sengoku's side at this moment. Sengoku frowned slightly at his presence. Some unhappy lesson said, "It's fine if you go to work to catch fish, but what are you doing here for such an important battle?" Regarding Sengoku's lesson, Kizaru also knew that he was wrong and did not refute it. How could his performance on the battlefield just escape the eyes of the resourceful general? After the brief lesson, Sengoku glanced at him. Seeing his serious face, he couldn't help but tremble in his heart. Shen Sheng asked, "Is there something wrong?" Kizaru nodded, and told Sengoku about his conversation with Rayleigh and the signs on the Impel Down escaped prisoner. In the end, he also said, "Although this incident has nothing to do with the current battle situation, I think you should understand what it means, Marshal, right?" 0. Seeking flowers. The expression on Sengoku's face was so gloomy that water could drip. After a long silence, he said to Kizaru, "If what you said is true, then the influence may be far beyond that of a pirate prince." Pass. The criminals conducted human experiments, and after creating monsters, they controlled them to attack celestial dragons, and used this as a favor. It is clear that it is the rhythm of plotting against the celestial dragons and the world government. And he does have a reason for that. 20 years ago, Ohara was an orphan whose hometown was destroyed. Aizen Sōsuke. Although Sengoku doesn't want to believe that his apprentice will do such a thing, but there is evidence of Conqueror's qualifications Luffy before, and guys like Rayleigh later. Now even this Kizaru guy is. Sengoku's gaze scanned the battlefield, looking for Aizen. But after searching every fighting place on the battlefield, they couldn't find it. Damn it, where did he go? Just when he was burning with anxiety. Garp's voice reminded him. The kid was going over to Whitebeard, he looked a little weird. I saw Garp's face was solemn, and his eyes were looking at Whitebeard's body from a distance. Following his gaze, Sengoku looked. At this time, except for the exposed head of Aizen, there is a layer of white substance on the body that is shattered. With every step he took, he scattered and fell to the ground. At the same time with his arrival, Lafitte, Blackbeard and his gang also stopped fighting. Or more accurately, it's Lafayette and the guys coming out of Impel Down that stop. Their sudden stop surprised Teach. Zero. Turning around, he shouted at them angrily, "Why did you stop? Hurry up and kill him, the traitor." The evil king and the wine barrel looked at each other, but they dared not speak. But as Aizen kept approaching, they subconsciously began to retreat. That look of fear made Teach even more angry. "I thought I was recruiting experts on the 6th floor, but I didn't expect to be frightened like this by a Marine Vice Admiral. What a bunch of trash." Aizen gradually approached, and said softly as he walked past Lafitte. "Thank you for your hard work, Timely." Lafitte bowed and saluted. "It is an honor to be able to serve you. Grown-ups." So it turns out that Lafitte's rebellion was all directed by him. Teach was stunned at first, and then a feeling of being humiliated rose in his heart. "You actually betrayed me and took refuge in a Marine Vice Admiral. Lafitte, are you really crazy?" As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Aizen, and said angrily, "Aizen Vice Admiral, what a skill. The last time we met, all the attention was on Aokiji. I didn't even notice your number. Instruct Lafitte to betray me, have you thought about how to die?" Teach's voice is stern, but he didn't notice that when he was speaking, the hearts of the subordinates behind him thumped, and their eyes trembled erratically. He didn't dare to make any sound, for fear of attracting the monster's attention. And Aizen treated them like air, and their attitude of ignoring them made them feel relieved. It's just that Teach felt only endless anger in the face of such ignorance. "Lousy is talking to you." He became angry and attacked Aizen. But Aizen's eyes were always locked on Whitebeard, and he didn't even give him the 10 gleams of peripheral vision from the corner of his eyes. His attack was also blocked by Lafitte, who appeared instantly. "Your Excellency is very busy, can you please keep quiet?" Master Captain. Just as Teach was about to start scolding, he was stopped by squinting eyes. Just for an instant, his whole body was drenched with sweat. Such terrifying eyes, such terrifying coercion. Is this really the height that human beings can reach? The instant gaze, as if from a god, made Nan-Chi feel unprecedented pressure. It made him feel his own insignificance, and even the blood in his whole body seemed to be frozen. After just a brief glance, Aizen looked away. He walked over to Whitebeard's body, stretched out his right hand and pulled slightly in the void. Under everyone's astonished eyes, a translucent Whitebeard reappears. "Huh, am I not dead yet?" "Unfortunately, Mr. Edward, you are indeed dead." When Whitebeard's soul body hadn't figured out the situation before him, he thought he was still alive. Aizen spoke the truth calmly. Whitebeard wasn't surprised by this either, it was just a haze when he just woke up. After realizing the same body as his own, he accepted this fact. "Are you Sengoku's disciple? Is this your method? A trivial trick is worth nothing. Tell me what you want to do." Whitebeard has seen countless storms in his life, and knows that the kid in front of him must have a plan. Aizen smiled as usual. He pushed his glasses and asked softly, "Would you like to stand by my side?" Edward Newgate.